Ah. Why did that come out of my... Okay. Why did I pause there? Why did that come out of my speakers and not my... Oh no. I know I had Taco Bell, guys, but you guys did not necessarily have Taco Bell for me. If I hit continue here, where does it start off? Oh, Asban. Thank you for the raid. This is not where I want it to be. Back to title. Yes, thank you for the raid, Asban. Asban was actually streaming Undertale earlier today, and I was watching him. It's specifically because you were at the part of Undertale that I really like. That's very emotionally strong. It's the fight with Metaton, and then like the story part after, and then the fight with Asgore. Though I did have to jump out before you got to Asgore. I don't know if you actually got... Oh no, I did see you get to Asgore. I don't know if you beat him or not. No, you did. You were playing with Flowey. I forgot. I watched that too. Never mind. Anyway, I got distracted. I was doing a lot of things at home. Yeah, the last part of Undertale's like neutral and pacifist ending, super good. I did a Let's Play for Undertale back when I was doing YouTube stuff. And that episode is... I literally go back to watch that episode every now and then because it was so emotionally powerful to me. Like, you can hear me crying in the YouTube video of me playing through it. But yeah, I actually did that when I saw you were playing. I was like, oh, I have to listen to myself cry. Anyway, what happened in The Greatest Attorney Adventures, which was the first game, we're going to move on to the second one. In The Greatest Attorney Adventures, our friend was studying to become an attorney. Law is very baby and very new in Japan at this point in time in history. So England is helping us out a lot. So our best friend was going to go to England and learn to become a lawyer. And at the beginning of the game, we were accused of a murder. And in order to protect our friend, we said that we were going to defend ourselves. But he was still in the defense with us. He was just an assistant at that time. So he helped us defend ourselves. And we did a really good job. And he was like, oh my god, you might be really suited towards law. And then he was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to sneak you aboard the ship that's going to take me to England to learn law. So he snuck us up aboard. We were living in his little closet, and we were going to live there for like 2-3 months. Until we got to England to help him while he was studying law. But unfortunately, he died about like 2 weeks into the cruise. I guess it's not a cruise, it's just a voyage. But he died 2 weeks into the cruise by accident, pretty much. So we ended up taking his place. We ended up learning law as quickly as we could on the boat, and we ended up defending a very, very rich guy who was very sus. What was it? Some person who was accused of murder. Oh yeah, a writer who was accused of murder, Japanese writer who was accused of murder, and then he went back to Japan. And then a young girl who was helping the sus rich guy. And we found out that there was this goings on between the government, like the government's like leaking secret information to other governments, and it was really, really interesting. But they set up for something there was a list of people's names, and one of the people on the list that was like a leaked list from the government was our best friend who had died on the voyage up to England. So we're very, very interested in what's going on. Let's continue. We just said goodbye to our good friend, our judicial assistant, who had to return back to Japan because her father was very ill. But hopefully she'll be coming back. Also, thank you for following, Escalope. And that's her. Oh no.
Standing here in the bright sunshine, looking out over the vast ocean. Those days in London seem like a dream. But I do miss my time in England's vast capital.
Oh no. I guess her father did pass away.
You know, He's flourished into a truly wonderful lawyer.
This is not like the voice I gave her at all.
I've no doubt that at this very moment, he's fighting some noble cause in court.
Am I? We'll see.
Forgive me for taking so long to come to visit you. My life has been such a whirlwind since I returned. And no one could have predicted.
Never mind.
What has happened.
This is not her dad. This is our friend.
Just 2 months after arriving home.
I find myself faced with another awful crime. Oh no. Oh. Are we going back to Japan?
I came here today to ask something of you. Tomorrow, I shall be standing in court.
What?
For the only time in my life. As a lawyer.
What? No way. Wait, also, is that the lady from the first trial? It is.
So please, I ask for your guidance.
Oh, this is exciting. Okay, okay. I kind of want to replay that cutscene in Japanese because we're in Japan. The adventure of the blossoming attorney. Oh my god, we're gonna play as her. I did not see that coming at all. 13th August, 8:26 a.m. Supreme Court of Judicature, Defendant's Antechamber 3. Okay. I usually like having it in Japanese when we're in Japan. You know what? Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Unless someone who's played this game has anything to like say against that. But for now, I'm going to... Yeah, let me save it. It's fine that I didn't see that. If you thought Naruhodo and Asogi had the gate for each other, just wait. Oh no! Oh boy, I'm excited. I'm very excited. Okay, we're in Japan. We're in Japan, so I'm gonna switch this to Japanese real quick. That won't take very long. Don't worry. Voices, language, voice, Japanese. Okay. I don't think we need to watch that cutscene again in Japanese, but I'm very excited to be in Japan. I will say that I did not see this coming at all. Oof, okay, okay. So we're gonna play as Susato. Oh man, that means I have to do her voice this whole time. Okay. Here I am again after 9 months. The Supreme Court of Judicature of Japan. I feel so nervous, but I must steel my nerves and find a way to compose myself. Oh good, her dad is still alive.
Oh good, you're here. It doesn't do a lawyer to be late.
Oh yes, good morning, sir.
I hardly recognize you. You've got a fine figure, Counsel. But you look as white as a sheet. Those wide eyes aren't doing you any favors either.
Oh dear. The truth is, I'm so incredibly nervous. I feel utterly nauseated. I almost wish that I'd never been born.
Goodness, not the sort of thing a father hopes to hear from his daughter, I must say.
Eugene Mikotoba, professor of medicine at the Imperial Yume University. A man who, earlier in his life, traveled to Great Britain to study the latest advances in forensic medical sciences. And, of course, my brilliant father. Excuse me. Okay, who's this gonna be? Okay. Would I be correct in thinking that you're to be my lawyer today? Oh, yes. Yes, that's right, miss. Well, I want to thank you for agreeing to represent me. I swear on my life. It's a complete fabrication, the whole thing. Ray Membami. Born the same year as I, and my greatest friend. Though unusual for a woman in our time, she works at the University Research Laboratory, helping my father. And sadly, she's the defendant in today's trial. Accused of committing a truly awful murder. Are you feeling alright? Since we started talking, you seem, well, to have become a little flushed. Oh my. Well, it's just that... You look so gallant and dashing. Sorry? And when I fall under your intense gaze, well, it makes me feel rather bashful. Oh, you're right. Ooh. Goodness, I don't think she knows. She hasn't realized who I am.
It would seem our little plan for this trial is going to work.
Oh, what do you mean, Professor Mikotoba?
If even your best friend can't see through the disguise, I think we can relax.
Disguise? Yes, I've never tried dressing this way before, of course, so I wasn't sure how convincing it would be. But this does make me feel a little relieved, as you say, Father. Father? What? Is that you, Susato? I'm so sorry I didn't say something sooner, Ray. No! What are you doing? What's going on? What? That varsity uniform, that varsity cap, that varsity cape, varsity badge? Look at you. You look for all the world just like a student of the Imperial Yume University. A male student. I'm so glad you think so. It means all my preparations have been worthwhile. I woke at 4 this morning to make a start. But I don't understand. Why are you dressed like that? Well, you see...
It was the only way. The only way she would be permitted into the Supreme Court to take her defense in this trial.
My defense? Never before in my life have I felt so frustrated at being born into this body. Courts in Japan are barred to women. We're not even allowed to set foot inside the courtroom, despite the fact that the laws of the land apply to all people, male and female alike. But women are forbidden. Just for today, I'll be leaving my true self at the courtroom door, so that I can act as your lawyer. Oh, Susato, you'd go to such lengths for me? Of course, you're my greatest friend. I just worry that I shan't be the lawyer you deserve. Oh no, I have complete faith in you. Ray. It's so strange though. I mean, you're such an accomplished judicial assistant already, and yet, just because you're a woman, what a wretched reason. I mean, why shouldn't you be allowed in court? You're so gallant and dashing. Ray, please don't look at me like that, with those flushed cheeks and doting eyes. Oh, I'm sorry. It's just, you really look so dashing. Yes, you mentioned that once or twice. My best friend has a crush on me. We're lesbians together.
You should be pleased. It means you look convincing as a man.
I am pleased, I think. It certainly helped to bolster my confidence today. Ray, you're managing to put on a brave face in all this, but I can see through it. I've noticed how your shoulders are slumped, and how you're trembling ever so slightly. Susato, you do believe me, don't you? I didn't do it. I couldn't have. I mean, murder. Of course. You have nothing to worry about. Your conscience is perfectly clean. Isn't that right? Yes. Yes, it is. Perfectly clean. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind about your innocence, which is why I'll stand by you until the bitter end in this trial. Whatever happens, I'll always be on your side. Because that's what it means to be a defense lawyer. That means so much to me, Susato.
Defendant, counsel, court is about to begin. Proceed to the courtroom at once. You should go in at once, Ray. If you're late, the judge won't hesitate to pronounce you guilty.
Oh. Stand aside. I don't think I've ever seen her run so fast.
Well, Susato, you've certainly surpassed your father. Going to such lengths to be admitted into the courtroom, and with no prior experience of being a lawyer.
There is simply no other way. That's all there is to it. But, Father, you haven't told her, have you? I mean, I'm right in assuming that Ray doesn't know how it came to this.
Yes, quite right. I've kept that information from her. It would only worry her if she found out that no other lawyer would agree to take her case. I didn't want to burden her with that.
And is it true? The reason why every other lawyer is refusing to take the case? Is it really because of who the victim was? Oh, it's just like the first case of the first game.
We should be making a move now too. As you know, law isn't my field, but I'll do what I can to support my student.
Thank you, Father. I'm Susato Mikotoba, a judicial assistant. 8 months ago, I accompanied a student of law on a study trip to Great Britain. But 2 months ago, due to unforeseen circumstances, I found myself back in Japan. How many times have I wished that he were here? I wonder. Still, I have no choice but to steel myself for the trial ahead. Wish me luck, Naruhodo-san. Oh, hold on. I need to bring this up over because I know my chat doesn't like to react properly. Okay. 13th August, 9 a.m. Supreme Court of Judicature, Courtroom 1.
The court is now in session to hear the trial of Raymond Bobby.
The prosecution is fully ready to proceed, Your Excellency.
Oh, look at her! She looks so cool!
Defense counsel, are you ready? Yes, Your Excellency, we are ready.
Ready.
Yes, counsel. According to your registration details, your name is, Ryutaru Naruhodo, is that correct?
Oh, she is my last name? I love that. I love that so much. Sorry?
Oh yes, I had to come up with a suitable male name for you for this little venture. So I'm afraid to say I simply put down the first name that sprung to mind. Well, counsel?
Yes, that's right. That's me. Yes, I am Ryutaru, he who has vowed to uphold the pride of the great Naruhodo clan. That's a very fitting wow. Look how dashing she is.
It seems Ryutaru may need to consider how better to uphold his manly act first and not to overdo it. And those wild wide eyes aren't doing you any favors either. Relax. Just relax and listen.
Naruhodo?
A fresh face in this courtroom, if I'm not mistaken. But the name Naruhodo, would that perchance be...
You may be thinking of Ryunosuke Naruhodo, currently in Britain as part of a study program. This,
his cousin.
That's right. Ryutaru here has been studying in the provinces, but was called to the capital for this trial. I assure you, in matters of law, his knowledge rivals that of any Tokyo's preeminent lawyers.
Any of them.
Tut, tut, tut. What a pitiful situation. Having been rejected by every lawyer in the capital, the accused had to call in a country boy.
How dare you? Susato is every bit as gallant and dashing as any of your Tokyo attorneys. I won't have you making fun of her.
Her?
Oh, please be careful, Ray.
What an unrefined tomboy we have here. But I wonder, is your gallant and dashing lawyer up to the challenge of defending you? His wide, skittish eyes very much suggest that he is not.
Ugh, I'm so nervous. Hey Boshamo, how are you doing? I'm doing well. I'm starting up this second game in this series. Makes me real happy. We're playing as a character that was just an assistant in the previous game. I did not expect this to happen, and I'm very, like, ecstatic to be playing as her. Now that I'm standing in his shoes, I'm starting to understand what Naruhodo-san goes through. Like it or not. Eyes are wont to flit. What a weird phrase.
The case to be heard on this day is a great matter of significance to our national interests. In fact, it would be reasonable to assume that the outcome of this trial may very well affect the very future of our empire.
Just like the trial 9 months ago. And yet for proceedings of such importance, we have this unknown yokel by the dock. Dear me.
Perhaps this would be an appropriate moment for me to assess the defense, to determine whether you are sufficiently competent to practice in this courtroom. 9 months ago, when a certain other Naruhodo stood where you were standing today, this same judge tested him as well. And even though he was just a student at the time, not even of law, he passed the test with flying colors.
Okay. Are you gonna let me look at the court record yet?
For a trained and expert judicial assistant like you, this will be easy. So, counsel, do you consent to answering some simple questions?
Alright, it's time to prove myself. She does it too. Yes, Your Excellency, but please do make them simple.
Very well, to start with, you will state the name of the victim.
That is simple. I couldn't forget that if I tried.
What's the matter?
Now that I'm standing in his shoes, I'm starting to understand something else Naruhodo-san goes through. Like it or not, minds are wont to blank.
It's not surprising, really. It's your first time in this position and in that guise. Even a bright spark like you is bound to flicker and falter a little under the circumstances.
She still has the female text belief. She does, you're right. Oh dear, this is a dismal failure.
Don't fret, you only need to use the knowledge you've gained as judicial assistant to overcome the problem.
Of course, the court record. Yes, the answer will be amongst all the key information about the case, in the court record.
That's right, just use R to open the court record. Then you need to flip to the people section with R. And don't take too long to overdo it, His Excellency will be watching you closely.
Alright, check the court record with R. Giselle Brett. She was found guilty of the murder of visiting professor Dr. John Wilson. I can't believe they gendered text bleeps. They really did.
I'm waiting, counsel. What is the name of the victim in this case?
Hi. Doing the same thing. The name of the victim who lost her life in this case is Miss Giselle Brett. Giselle Brett.
A name that will never be forgotten in the courtrooms of our country, I'm sure. Correct. And being a member of our empire's judiciary, you will be aware of the significance of that name. So, let me pose another simple question. As you know, Miss Brett was a visiting student from the Empire of Great Britain. Why, then, is her name indelibly associated with our own empire's judicial history? Obviously, you won't have forgotten that case from 9 months ago. But it's proving hard to recall the finer points. Everything you need is included in the court record.
Is it? She murdered, yeah, 9 months ago. Is that all that I need? That she murdered John Wilson? Obviously, I still remember. That was the start of everything. Giselle Brett, behind the woman student persona, was the face of a killer. 9 months ago, a visiting professor of medicine at the Imperial Yume University was killed, and the culprit was Giselle Brett.
Yes, she was a killer. At the time, our country had just signed a new treaty with the Empire of Great Britain, and it was in the midst of this delicate diplomatic situation that the incident occurred. An Englishman, Dr. John H. Wilson, was shot dead. I believe he was an associate of yours, Professor Mikitoba? Oh. Professor Mikitoba? I don't know who said that. Yes, I was indebted to the man. He had been my mentor when I went to London to study forensic medicine. Indeed, it was I who invited him here to Japan as a visiting professor at the university. Naturally, the murder of an Englishman on our soil was a matter the government wished to resolve rapidly. Indeed it was, which is why a secret trial was conducted here at the Supreme Court. A student of the Imperial Yume University was arrested on suspicion of murder. Second-year English language student by the name of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. With the help of his best friend, a student lawyer, the accused conducted his own defense and exposed the despicable crime committed by Miss Giselle Brett. Miss Brett eventually admitted to her crime. However, when questioned about the motive that drove her to take Dr. Wilson's life, she gave no satisfactory answer before trial reached its conclusion.
Immediately after the trial, the British government brought its consular jurisdiction into play. We were unable to sentence Miss Brett according to our empire's laws. It was decided that she would be removed to Shanghai, China instead.
Why Shanghai?
There's a British consular court there. Correct. I oversaw the negotiations personally. The date of her transfer to Shanghai was finally settled upon only last week. All that remained of our empire's obligations was to see the woman safely on board a steamship.
And yet, the very day before her departure, the English woman was killed.
Only the day before.
That will do. I'm satisfied the counsel for defense is sufficiently capable of representing the defendant.
Oh. Thank you, Your Excellency. Over the first hurdle.
Now a summary of the incident, if you please. Prosecutor Ouchi.
As is your wish, Your Excellency. The repugnant crime took place on the 11th of August in broad daylight. On the outskirts of the imperial capital, under a bright blue sky and a secluded bathing spot by the sea, the incident occurred inside a small beach hut erected for bathers to rest or change their clothes. The cause of death was a single stab wound to the posterior abdomen that pierced the victim's lung, an injury which proved fatal. There were two persons alone together in the beach hut at the time of the victim's death. Miss Brett in her bathing attire, and the accused, Ray Membami. Accordingly, there can be no doubt of the accused's guilt, especially when we consider that she had a powerful motive. The police arrived rapidly at the scene and promptly arrested the young lady.
Well, that extraordinary description of events leaves me somewhat lost for words, I must say.
That's certainly true. The prosecution summary was full of words that raised an awful lot of questions. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up the prosecution counsel on what he said about a powerful motive. Ouchie sounds like Professor Oak in the original Pokemon Snap. Yeah, kind of, but younger, I guess. A little bit younger than Professor Oak.
Wonderful!
You're clearly exaggerating. Powerful motive is a blatant overstatement.
Tut tut! Is the yokel boy using long words he doesn't fully understand?
I beg your pardon.
No matter. Let us put this to the accused, shall we? Membami-san, you are a research assistant at the Imperial Yume University, I believe.
Yes, I am. I'm working with Professor Mikitoba in his laboratory at the moment.
I can confirm that. The defendant is an excellent assistant with a strong sense of responsibility.
Fascinating to hear. Now another question. Prior to your work with Professor Mikotoba, whose research were you assisting then?
Oh, well, I was studying under Dr. John H. Wilson.
Dr. Wilson? The visiting English professor who was murdered by Miss Brett 9 months ago.
You were close. The accused had a deep-seated respect for her former mentor, Dr. Wilson. Is that not true?
Yes, Dr. Wilson was a wonderful man.
Interesting. Then tell the court what deep-seated feelings you had towards the Englishwoman who killed him.
Well, obviously it was filled with hatred for what she'd done, and powerful hatred. Oh no, Ray, be careful what you're saying.
The motive was revenge. Plain and simple, Your Excellency.
Well, it was clearly a trap all along.
How wicked of him to use Ray's undying respect for her former mentor against her like that. I must find out more details, and something we can use to bolster our defense. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up the prosecution on what he said about being alone together. Membani-san. Yes? What is it, Naruhodo-san? I'm really starting to wish we'd made my allies Ryutaru Susato. Please tell the court why exactly you were present at the bathing spot with the victim in the first place, and why you were alone with her. Oh, well, no, that's not true. It wasn't like that at all. There were other people present, a detective who was guarding Miss Brett for starters. I was just asked to accompany Miss Brett as a companion, that's all.
But let us be clear. At the moment of her death, you were alone together with the victim in the hut. You and no one else. The truth is, there's only one reason why this young woman accompanied Miss Brett on her bathing sojourn. It was the accused's last chance to take the victim's life.
No.
Because, as we know, the following day would see Miss Brett extradited to the British authorities in Shanghai. And the accused would never have an opportunity to dispatch her again.
Kindly refrain from conjecture, counsel.
The prosecution counsel seems to enjoy using provocative tricks like that. But for now, at least, we need to assemble more facts. Try not to let them goad you.
Oh dear. This is really terrifying, but Father's right. We need more information. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up the prosecution counsel on what he said about the bathing spot. If I may, Prosecutor Ouchi?
What do you want, you fresh-faced young yokel student?
I wonder, could you explain, please? You mentioned a bathing spot.
My apologies. Clearly my modernity has confused the poor country bumpkin's simple mind. Bathing spots are the very latest trend in health practices from the West. We are told that bathing in the water of the ocean is curative, therapeutic, and excellent for the skin's...
No, that's not what I meant. I was referring to the fact that Miss Brett had, to all intents and purposes, been found guilty of murder. Why would a known criminal have been relaxing by the sea?
For old time's sake, I believe.
Sorry?
Miss Brett was to depart for Shanghai the following day. Her final wish, as it were, was to enjoy a day at our country's wonderful coast. And the British Embassy put extreme pressure on our government to comply.
But on what grounds would we agree to such a request?
Because, as usual, our government is unable to stand up to foreign powers. In matters of diplomacy, it seems we don't even have the courage to decline the whims of a known criminal.
Don't look at me, Professor. It was the government who granted permission, not I. In any case, it was decided that with a dedicated With a dedicated detective on duty, nothing could go wrong.
Thanks for the alliteration. But in fact, a murder took place.
I said don't look at me, it was that young student girl who did it, not I.
No one proved that yet.
I wouldn't provoke the man if you don't need to. I believe we all have a clear picture of the incident now. Despite her guilt being determined 9 months ago, Miss Brett managed to avoid incarceration, instead continuing her research work at the university. Obviously, over that period, she and Ray would have encountered each other on a number of occasions.
Seeing the murder of the mentor for whom she had such great respect, enjoying such undeserved liberty.
Yes, even if it was only temporary until Miss Brett's extradition to Shanghai. You can hardly blame Ray for her feelings of anger and resentment.
Poor Ray.
So, Your Excellency, if you'd be so kind to peruse this exhibit. A photographic print that shows the scene of the crime immediately following the grim incident.
Now we're back to black and white photos, huh?
Yes, thank you, Counsel. A tragic image. As you can clearly see, there is nowhere within the hut that anyone else could have hidden. The court will accept this photographic print as evidence. As I understand it, then the victim and the defendant were alone inside the beach hut at the time. This is deeply troubling, I must say. The finger of guilt points firmly at the defendant.
Well, Your Excellency, naturally the prosecution has much more to its case. We intend to prove the accused's appalling actions beyond all possible contention. To that end, I can confirm that we have multiple witnesses to the crime and damning evidence.
Witnesses? But who?
One of whom I might add, is a highly respected police detective. I assure you, the testimony of these witnesses will leave no room for doubt.
Very well then, Counsel. Bring forth your witnesses.
I, Takatsuchi Aochi, have been waiting for this moment.
Sorry?
Oh yes, I haven't forgotten. That trial 9 months ago here in this very courthouse, when that irreverent little student boy utterly humiliated me. Ah! Ryunosuke Naruhodo!
Yes?
This insult to the Aochi family name will never be forgotten.
You've become conceited with age, Counsel, but the old have to stand aside and make way for the new. It's the way of the world. May you never forget that.
Strike the head of a samurai whose top knot has been cut, and the bell of cultural enlightenment tolls. Yes, on that fateful day, my former self died.
The start of your own mini Meiji revolution. Are you modernizing it as well, Counsel?
Silence! Since I swore revenge back then, there has been a minor miracle atop my head. Observe the Aochi growth. You see the seed of hope sprouting forth from my barren expanse of my crown.
I think that tiny growth is trying to tell me something. I'm afraid I can't really see. Where's the hope exactly?
I said silence! Today, I face another Yoko student of the Naruhodo clan. Well, I will vanquish you. And my victory will be the fertilizer for the seed of hope atop my head. You have been warned. With that, the prosecution calls the witnesses to the stand.
It looks like the stakes are high on both sides in this trial. Prosecution and defense each has much to lose.
A haircut is hardly comparable to Ray's life. Oh my god, it's him again. Oh my god, it's him again. How are both of you guys here? Oh boy, we have the undercover police detective guy, like whatever agent, and we have the writer, the Japanese writer that we defended in the last game. All right. Sorry, I didn't mean to cough into the mic. Just. All right.
Witnesses, please state your names and occupations for the court.
Chief Inspector Satoru Hosonaga, Imperial Police Bureau. I'm in disguise, obviously, so I can go undetected. And I am, well, the next big thing in books. An author renowned through the capital. In fact, yes. Soon to be sold out, the satirical I Am a Cat sensational success by Soseki Natsume. Oh my goodness. Struggling student for the provinces, please. You needn't be in awe of me. I needn't? It's only natural that you feel nervous in my presence, but all of you, please relax. Call me Soseki even. Yes. What on earth is Soseki-san doing here? Tread carefully, Susato. That author fellow knows you from your time in London, doesn't he? If he exposes you for who you really are, this will be over before it's begun. Yes, of course, I know. I presume Soseki-san won't have forgotten about me. I could certainly never forget him. Although he does seem to have changed somewhat in the 6 months or so that it's been since I last saw him. And as for Inspector Hosonaga, that amazing outfit is hard to believe. Do I have something on my face? Well, your glasses for one, although they don't seem to be helping you see. Thank goodness he hasn't recognized me either. Oh, I suppose it's this disguise, isn't it? I thought that appearing here in the clothes I was wearing at the time would make for a more faithful testimony. It is my guiding principle to carry out all testimonies flawlessly. Well, I can appreciate why an Imperial Police Bureau detective might have been present. But what business did a writer such as yourself have being at the scene, Soseki-san? Well, you see, I had been asked that day to give a lecture. On the morning of the incident in the Imperial Yume University's Grand Lecture Hall, no less. At Yume University? After the lecture, I had a very pleasant conversation with a researcher from the medical science department. The professor over there, in fact. With with Professor Mikitoba. Yes, that's right. It was arranged by one of the newspapers. They wanted some story or other about 2 former students who had studied in Great Britain. Of course, being a renowned author, the press never leaves me alone. They secretly spy, snapshot, scribble stories, and discover my privacy. Who is this person behind them? He's gonna be important, isn't he? As you can see, the conversation was written up in this newspaper here. Read it at your leisure, my provincial struggling student friend. I have plenty of copies. Thank you very much. He practically threw that paper at me. Uh-oh, you know what that is? We got new evidence. We got new evidence. We got new... What is... Is that a different cat? There's no way that we brought the cat... That she brought the cat over from Japan. Okay, well... Anyway, I can't read any of this. I didn't translate it. So, Trying to see if there's anything important. Why is this cracked? Huh. Interesting. Why is his hand on his throat? Why is his hand like this? He's holding a fan. There's a cat here. Okay. I'm not sure why he's doing that. The debate became quite spirited. Anyway, following my interview with the professor, the lady in question appeared and made a very unexpected announcement. I should like to go with everyone to see your country's coast. Those are her words. As I explained before, Miss Brett was never taken into custody. She continued to work in my laboratory under strict surveillance, of course.
At which utterance, the university immediately contacted the government to seek guidance. And the response was, permit Miss Brett to go as long as a detective accompanies her.
That detective I'm at liberty to divulge was me, Chief Inspector Satoru Hosonaga.
Thereby, the entire party departed cordially for the seaside, it seems.
It was extremely challenging to clear all other members of the public from the vicinity of the beach. But fortunately, I am at peak physical fitness at the moment, so I was able to carry out my duty flawlessly. Please don't say that after you cough blood into your hand. Oh my, Inspector, you... well, you do have something on your face now. How unsightly. I do apologize. Does that mean you went to the beach? Oh, does that mean you went to the beach too, Father? No. Fortunately, I had work to finish off. But unfortunately, of course, it meant that as my assistant Ray was invited to take my place. Of course, being a renowned author, I didn't like to decline the invitation. But only if I had, I'd never have seen that awful sight. Relentlessly racked by remorse and regret. Very well, I must now ask you to present your formal testimony to the court. You will give an account of all that you witnessed on your impromptu excursion to the coast. Of course, Your Excellency. Relentlessly racked by remorse and regret, I am. This man is still dying of tuberculosis after 9 months. He really is. On the day of the incident, I was ordered on a special surveillance assignment in this disguise. I had just managed to catch that crab when I suddenly heard a caterwaul from behind me. I ran into the beach hut at once, where I found the pair in question. Yes, that young girl was astride the Englishwoman, dagger in hand, as she stabbed wildly. I saw blood on the blade. It proved to me that she'd stabbed the victim multiple times. That's incorrect. It was one stab wound. Indeed, it does appear from this testimony that both witnesses here present saw it. Whoops. Yeah, it's a single deep stab wound. Death would have occurred within minutes. Extreme meiosis, pupil constriction was observed in victims' both eyes. Okay. I am glad that nervous man got a good boyfriend. Okay. The very moment of this heinous crime. What?
Now, if you will recall, I promised evidence as well. What phrase did I use again? Oh yes, what was it? Damning evidence.
What have you there, Counsel? The so-called fountain pen, is it? Correct, Your Excellency. I found it at the scene whilst examining the body. It appears that in her dying moments, with her final ounce of strength, the victim clutched a piece of evidence that would positively identify her killer. What?
Your Excellency, if you would cast your eyes over the photographic print of the crime scene once more.
Oh, goodness me. Yes, the victim is clearly grasping something quite deliberately there in her hand. That's right, the fountain pen. And if you would kindly examine the pen, Your Excellency. The owner's initials have been engraved into the ebonite barrel. R.M. Ray Membami. The initials of the defendant. No. This fountain pen will be admitted immediately as critical evidence.
So, have I omitted anything?
No, but give me a second to see this. Wait, I can't examine it. Okay, well, never mind.
Decisive testimony and damning evidence. There's a bright blue sky outside the courthouse today. Perfect weather to ascribe guilt, I feel.
I don't understand. The prosecutor outed you 9 months ago. Had none of this man's flaws. Yes, he did. He's exactly the same. You just have to present one thing and then he breaks apart.
Counsel for the defense, you may begin your cross-examination now. Naruhodo-san.
Naruhodo. That That means... Oh, yes, me.
Is there another Naruhodo in my courtroom?
Actually, there isn't even a single Naruhodo in your courtroom.
Cousin Ryutaro, pull yourself together, please.
Alright, I've seen this countless times as a judicial assistant. Find inconsistencies in the witnesses' testimonies to prove that they're lying somehow. That's all there is to it. That's how a real lawyer would handle cross-examination. So, let's see what I can do. The witness scene. I'm not even going to look at what you're saying. There you go. No, she was only stabbed once. Igari. With that accusatory cry that just welled up from deep inside me, I think I finally understand. Every time Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo-san have stood here at this bench, the stakes have been very, very high indeed.
What's the meaning of this menacing pose, counsel?
I'd like the witness to clarify something for me. What? Where? When? How? Not you, Soseki-san. The query is directed at Inspector Hosonaga.
Me.
In your statement just now, you said that the victim was stabbed multiple times.
Yes, that's right. As I said when I entered the hut, the defendant was already standing over the victim, bloody knife in hand, like a murderous demon.
And yet, that cannot be.
What? Get to the point, please, counsel.
In the post-mortem report, it clearly states that the victim was stabbed one time only.
Oh.
In other words, Inspector Hosanaga's testimony is clearly flawed. Oh, and Soseki-san,
Me?
you claim to have seen Membani-san in the throes of stabbing the victim.
Yes, I did, wildly.
But both you and the inspector have confirmed the same point, that there was already blood on the knife that you saw the defendant holding.
Yes, and?
It's quite simple. We know the murder weapon was used to stab the victim only once, therefore, there's no way there could have been blood on the knife if that single stabbing hadn't already occurred. Thank you for the hydrate, Yin Yang.
True. Then what exactly is your contention, counsel? Are you ever going to tell us?
Yes, Your Excellency. There's only one logical conclusion. What Soseki-san in fact saw was not the moment that the defendant stabbed the victim at all, but the moment that the defendant in fact withdrew the blade from the victim's body. That can't be!
Excellent work, Susato. You exploded at them with that objection, then proceeded to pull them apart systematically.
Well, this takes me back. Yes, I seem to remember your cousin staged a scene much like this in that trial 9 months ago. A half-witted child with a half-baked objection attempting to steal the show.
You're right, there were certain similarities. Except that so-called half-witted child managed to outwit the prosecution, who has only half a head of hair.
Slander! My head is quite adequately dressed. In any case, all this talk of stabbing and withdrawing in multiple wounds, it makes not a jot of difference.
What? Why not?
Engage your brain, young man. When the accused had first plunged the deadly weapon into the victim, that was the fatal blow. And it was that moment, just as she had withdrawn the blade ready for her next strike, that the witnesses saw. The knife was already tainted with blood because the accused had already stabbed the victim.
Oh.
All you have successfully shown with your little display is that the mustached author is prone to moments of extravagance.
Oh my god, hello everybody in chat. Oh my gosh. Hello, Zev and Yin Yang. Actually, I didn't say hi to Yin Yang. I just said thank you for the hydrate.
I am in agreement with the prosecution. If the defendant was seen wielding the blade at all, that is sufficient grounds for her actions to be viewed with suspicion.
But if she was withdrawing the blade...
Then we are back to where we started.
Sorry?
Consider this, young yokel boy. If the student girl is as innocent as you claim, then why would she have pulled the blade from the victim? And with a demon's cold-blooded composure, too. The prosecution demands an explanation, and it had better be good.
Why did Ray pull out the knife?
Yes, going for the jugular.
What does father mean by that?
Let the court hear your answer then, counsel.
The truth is, I don't really know. But I have to come up with a plausible reason here, or we don't have a case. The reason why the defendant pulled the knife blade out of the victim's body was surely so she could... I would assume save her life. I don't know what's going on here, but hold on. Maybe? According to the post-mortem report, the victim's death was not instant.
That's correct. It's thought she would have remained conscious for a short while after sustaining the injury.
Indeed, giving her the time to take hold piece of this evidence that clearly indicates her killer.
The point is, being a medical research assistant, Membami-san was compelled to act when faced with the wounded victim. Instinctively, she pulled the blade out in an attempt to save Miss Brett's life.
Did you hear that, Your Excellency? It would seem this is the best we can expect out of this young yokel.
Indeed.
Is it just me, or does it suddenly feel much colder in here?
Your Excellency, if I may? Speak, witness. I would like another opportunity to testify, in respect to the slipshod assertion just put forward by the yokel defense counsel, I mean.
Slipshot?
An excellent idea, Inspector. Our young yokel has hopeful... Our young yokel hopeful has a modicum of knowledge when it comes to the law, it seems. But in matters of medicine, he appears to possess not one iota of common sense.
Very well, Inspector, I will permit your request. You will testify again before the court on the subject of the defense counsel's assertion. Yes, sir. I will do so flawlessly.
Witness testimony. Forensic medicine primer, okay. Pulling a blade from a wound without thinking could cause heavy bleeding. That's basic knowledge that any medical research assistant with an ounce of sense ought to know. In other words, there's no good reason why the defendant would have tried to pull the knife from the victim. Let's not forget that the young student did have a motive for killing the victim. The man the victim murdered 9 months ago, Dr. Wilson, was the defendant's highly respected mentor. Is what you just said true, Inspector? Could pulling a knife from a wound really cause the wound to bleed heavily? Yes, think of the weapon itself as a stopper in the wound that prevents excessive blood loss. Until a doctor is ready to provide proper treatment, that stopper shouldn't be removed. Oh, I see.
This is why yokels just stay on the farm. Even a quack from some obscure mountain village would have such basic knowledge. Anyone who's given someone a little poke with a knife and pulled it out again knows it.
I'm not... What context would people do that? In what context would people poke something with a knife and pull it? I'm not... Let's not think about it as a stopper. You poke things and see if the knife comes out clean. Oh, well,
I've never stabbed anyone, you see, or pulled a blade out of a wound, so...
Of course you haven't. I didn't bring you up to behave like a bandit.
Father, is it true what they're telling me?
Yes, it's basic remedial knowledge for medics. Ray would have been well aware of it. If she were to claim ignorance of such fundamentals, that would prove fatal in many ways.
But then, why would Ray have done it? Could she have pulled out that knife in full knowledge that it would be fatal for Miss Brett?
I don't know.
Ray never once mentioned anything about the knife to me. It seems almost impossible to believe, but... could my friend actually have...
Susato,
Yes?
pull yourself together. We mustn't lose sight of why we're here. Counsel, it is time for your cross-examination.
Oh, yes, Your Excellency.
However, I must warn you that if your cross-examination fails to identify any issue with the established facts, I will be moving my adjudication immediately afterwards.
I understand. Believing in your clients and fighting for their cause until the bitter end. I knew it would be hard, but I had no idea it would be this hard. Forensic medicine primer, okay. Pulling away from a balloon without thinking could cause heavy bleeding. Hold on. First, I want to look at this. Examine. Okay, resulting in fatal hemorrhage. Death would have occurred within a minute. Extreme meiosis. Pupil constriction was observed in victims both eyes. Okay. Is there anything here that's notable? Alright. That's basic knowledge that any medical research assistant with an ounce of sense ought to know. In other words, there's no good reason why the defendant would have tried to pull the knife out from the victim. Let me press this. Mata. But the defendant had suddenly encountered somebody she knew lying on the ground bleeding to death. The sight could have shocked her delicate sensibilities, causing her to remove the blade inadvertently.
I really don't think inadvertent actions can explain this. The woman is a medical research assistant. I can't imagine she would have behaved so irrationally.
Oh, but irrational behavior is a woman's prerogative, isn't it?
Oh dear, you have a lot to learn about women. Only a small-minded man could have such bigoted views.
There's something about...
Oh dear, perhaps I'm letting my male persona take a hold a little too much.
Well, have I managed to convey the basics now? That should cover the medical side of the argument. Let's not forget that the young student did have a motive for killing the victim. What's next? The man the victim murdered 9 months ago, Dr. Wilson, was the defendant's highly respected mentor.
Going to keep pressing things. Whatever the motive, it just isn't Membani-san's nature to do something so awful. Wait, can I? Yeah, I still can't check it. Okay, never mind.
But she had both motive and opportunity. That's very hard to argue against.
But you don't know the defendant.
And you, counsel, do not appear to know the law.
Yes, evidence is the only way to convince the court of your argument, not feelings.
With this fledgling to defend her, I would almost say I pity the accused.
So do I.
Inspector, you will reiterate your point about the defendant's motive, please? Yes, Miss Brett was in many ways a sworn enemy of Membami-san. And the victim murdered 9 months ago, Dr. Wilson was the defendant's highly respected mentor.
Well, yes, that's true. Dr. Wilson recognized Membami-san's talent and offered her the position of assistant despite her being a woman. She was extremely grateful to him.
Yes, the Englishman appears to have been a very broad-minded individual. Dr. Wilson had no time for outdated traditions. He met with opposition, of course, but he believed firmly in Mbami-san's abilities. Clearly, the defendant was in the man's debt, which only serves to prove my point.
This is hopeless. I can't find a single crack in this testimony anywhere. If Ray knew that withdrawing the knife from the wound would threaten Miss Brett's life further, I just can't think of any way to explain why she did it.
Susato, it's at times like these when it's especially important to remember the fundamentals.
The fundamentals?
Evidence is what counts in the courtroom, isn't it?
Of course, but I've been through the court record dozens of times already.
I think perhaps you're forgetting something, though. You needn't take the evidence at face value. You can and must examine it in greater detail, too. Okay, now I can do it.
Oh.
I realize this is your first time playing the role of a lawyer in this courtroom. So if you need reminding of the rudiments, you need only ask. I'll do my very best to help.
Examine the evidence in the court record.
An idea. What should I do? I know what to do.
Come to think of it, Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo-san were always turning evidence over and over in their hands. Yes, I need to examine things in greater detail with A.
Ah, by the look in your eyes, I see it's coming back to you. Go through the court record again and have a thorough look at everything. You may just find a clue.
Yes, I'll do it straight away. There you go. Alright, so I'm gonna examine this, which is what I was trying to do this whole time. Pull this open and see that it is a sewing kit, is it not? No, it's just a pen. Well, never mind. Nothing appears obviously out of the ordinary here, does it? Okay, how about the back? There's some sort of emblem here, look. But it isn't a Yume University one.
It was supposed to belong to some other organization, I suppose. A business of some kind. That would seem to imply the pen doesn't in fact belong to Ray.
Details of the fountain pen have been updated in the court record. Interesting. Now let's unscrew the barrel, shall we? Huh? Doesn't have any ink in it. This must be the little reservoir that holds the ink.
Yes, you fill it by drawing ink from the bottle through the nib.
Is something wrong, Father?
Just so there doesn't appear to actually be any ink in there at all, that's all.
No, yes, you're right. And it's pretty much empty. Well, it could be on the verge of running out, I suppose. There's a very, very small amount of liquid still inside the ink reservoir. Interesting. Okay. Weird. That didn't really help, but let's examine here. Never mind. Let's examine here. Oh, now I can move it around. Perfect, perfect. What's on the back? It's a newspaper from Soseki-san. Seems to be an important article on the back page as well. Exclusive deadly poison stolen from Yume Medical Research Laboratory. From Yume's Medical Research... Father, isn't that your lab?
What the? Let me see that. The poison's been stolen.
It's this morning's paper that Soseki-san gave us. Are you saying you didn't know?
As embarrassing as it is for the head of the laboratory, I didn't. I've not heard any such thing. Where on earth could the reporter have gleaned this information?
Come to think of it, there was no article mentioning this story in our paper this morning, was there?
It's a highly toxic poison we've been working on in the strictest confidence. I'd put Ray in charge of the project.
Ray? She was managing it?
If what's written here is true, it means that she tried to hide the theft from me. And moreover, the details were leaked somehow.
I don't believe it.
We need to read this article very carefully.
Okay. Is there anything else I have to read here? No? Okay. Raucous England returnees tell all. This is an interview with you and Soseki-san, is it, Father? It looks as though it was quite an exchange.
Yes, he became a little over-animated when he was talking about his time in England. The photographer managed to capture the moment his hand karate chopped me on the neck.
I do hope you weren't hurt.
there anything else I haven't found on this? No, it looks like I've done everything, really. Oh, the initials, right. The RM initials are very clearly engraved here. And the fact that Miss Brett was clinging to this pen in her dying moments is very clearly a message, too. To identify her killer, you mean? I don't think there can be any doubt that this is a key piece of evidence in this case. Well, let's take up the cap again. And then open the barrel. Let's see if the letters changed at all. Nope. Was worth a try. I think that's all we can glean here. This doesn't answer anything at all. Let's not forget that the young student did have a motive for killing the victim, and... okay. Pulling a blade from a wound could cause heavy bleed. Let me press everything while I'm here. You say doing it without thinking could be a problem. Does that mean that if you use due care and attention it would be alright? I wouldn't have felt this need of spelling out, really. But the blade is like a stopper in the wound. Remove it and a serious hemorrhage will occur. In other words, a medic would need to be present before any attempt was made to withdraw the blade. Doing it without thinking would be madness. You can't just do it. You just can't do it. Oh, well, thank you for such a thorough explanation. I just realized one more thing. Here you go. Following a lecture at Yume's by Soseki Natsume on the 11th August, it's come to light that a very disturbing incident took place. A deadly poison secretly developed in the university's forensic science laboratory was stolen. Even the smallest amount entering the body, either via the mouth or via a wound from a poison-laced blade, would prove fatal in minutes. Oh, in minutes. Okay. Current methods cannot detect the newly developed chemical. The university would have to be consulted. Onset of symptoms occurs in minutes, starting with impaired breathing and ending in the acute contraction of the pupils prior to death. Such symptoms would be suggestive of this toxin. It's apparently an entirely new synthesis of alkaloids rumored to have been commissioned by the military. Okay, so yes, that is what we need.
You see, Counsel? When you act without thinking, the result is a bloodbath.
Back to the witness testimony, please.
Okay. I'm gonna present this. Igiari! No, there is one possibility. One very good reason why the defendant might have decided to withdraw the knife from the victim's wound.
What?
Ha! The yokel not only has a poor grasp of the law, but is also a poor loser. Tell us then, what possibility do you think you've identified?
It's here, in this newspaper article. An article about a deadly poison having been stolen at a laboratory at the Imperial Yume unit.
The victim perished from a stab wound. Poison has no relevance in this case.
But
Prosecutor Ouchi, you will let the defense speak.
But a newspaper article? The court cannot rely on those kind of hearsay those wretched publications carry.
Counsel for the defense. I'm going to need some tangible basis for your claim. You will indicate to the court precisely what part of the newspaper article mentioned affirms your assertion.
Oh, let me check this real quick. Deadly in tiny quantities. Well, it's both. It's kind of all of it. I would say deadly in tiny quantities.
Your Excellency!
Yes, of course. Thank you. We would never have done something to further endanger Miss Brett's life without just cause. The reason why the defendant pulled a knife from the victim's body is explained in the article where it says deadly in tiny quantities. The article reveals the following property about the poison in question. When the toxin enters the body on a knife laced with a poison, it's rapidly absorbed and causes death in minutes.
Are you suggesting?
If the knife used to attack Miss Brett was laced with this very poison, it would explain why the defendant, Membami-san, would have withdrawn the blade as soon as possible. Yes, the truth is, it was an attempt to stop the poison from entering the victim's body. What?
This is complete and utter nonsense.
Not at all. The defendant withdrew the knife blade from the victim's body not to accelerate the woman's demise, but to save her life, and the prosecution cannot deny the possibility.
Have you not read the post-mortem report? The cause of death was hemorrhage. The word poison appears nowhere in the document.
Well, that's because by acting quickly to remove the blade, the defendant prevented the poison from taking hold.
Oh please, this is clearly desperation. The weasel's last breaking of wind. Poison has nothing whatsoever to do with the case, as I believe the defense is very well aware. We have no proof that the information in this wretched newspaper article is at all reliable anyway.
In that situation, what the student should have done is wait for medical assistance to arrive. But instead, you claim she suspected poisoning and took the potentially lethal decision to remove the blade. She must have had a strong reason for her suspicions then, or the argument makes no sense.
Exactly. Well put, Inspector. On what grounds did she do it, Yoko?
Why did Ray suspect the stolen poison was involved? If you want grounds, I'll give you grounds. What?
You can't possibly.
From your expression, counsel, it appears those are not empty words. But naturally, as you stand in this courtroom as a lawyer, you must be aware that words alone, empty or not, are of no value in our modern justice system. The court demands evidence.
Yes, Your Excellency. I'm well aware of that. I've seen it many times, from my place at his side in the Old Bailey.
In that case, counsel, you will present the proof to the court now. What evidence demonstrates a clear link between this case and the poison in the newspaper article?
Could I? The post-mortem report. I would ask the court to refer to the notes section of the post-mortem report, which reads, extreme meiosis, pupil constriction, was observed in the victim. Clearly, being a yokel with no knowledge of forensic science, I have no idea. So please, do tell me. Presumably, the fact that this condition of the victim was noted in the post-mortem report means that it's an unusual symptom of death?
Well,
Under normal circumstances, the pupils dilate when someone dies. If there was extreme constriction instead, that's most certainly unusual, yes.
what are you doing, you yokel detective?
In the newspaper article, there's the following information about the stolen poison. Onset of symptoms occurs in minutes, ending with an acute contraction of the pupils prior to death.
What?
If the defendant, upon seeing the victim stabbed in the back, happened to notice that the pupils of Miss Brett's eyes had constricted severely,
Yes, as a medical research assistant, she would have suspected poison immediately, without doubt.
Professor Ouchi, I think you'll agree, this is very compelling evidence.
You yokel student and yokel professor.
I believe the defense has expertly demonstrated a credible reason for the defendant's actions.
No.
Yujin Mikotoba. Yes, Your Excellency.
Oh god, you guys have the same voice, come on.
I believe you are best placed to confirm or deny the veracity of the defense counsel's argument. You will tell the court about the details reported in the newspaper, please. It pains me to have to admit it, but I'm afraid I don't know. You don't know. The toxin was kept under lock and key in my laboratory, certainly, but I was unaware of any theft. Do you mean to tell the court that the reports of this theft are unfounded? No, Your Excellency. Without returning to the laboratory to investigate myself, I couldn't say.
Listen to the bumbling academic. Unaware of the theft of a secret state research from his own workplace until he reads of it in the newspaper.
I take full responsibility for the incompetence of my supervision.
Father,
A pitiful situation for a university professor. You should have more control over your students, rather than allowing them off on killing sprees.
That's totally unfounded. I assume that hold it was her, so she would be hold it. Yep. None of this is Professor Mikotoba's fault. It's all my fault. Ray.
Membami-san, you stand accused here. Outbursts like this will not be tolerated.
But it was me. I was the one who noticed that the poison we were developing had been stolen that day.
What?
So you knew. I'd been placed in charge of overseeing the project. It was the day that the professor and Soseki-san were interviewed together for the newspaper. That's when I noticed that some of the poison was missing. Just a tiny amount it was.
Why didn't you let me know immediately?
I was scared. The whole project was supposed to be confidential, but some of the toxin had somehow been taken. So I decided to try to get it back before anyone else found out. Because I had a very good idea who the thief was. The thief? You don't mean... Yes, of course. It was that dainty English woman.
Miss Giselle Brett.
That's why I decided to join the little group of people who was going to the seaside. Inside the beach hut, I confronted Miss Brett. But she just sat on a stool at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly at me as if she knew she was untouchable. I know it was you who stole the poison. Well now, whatever do you mean? And then, she suddenly got to her feet, before falling to her knees in front of me and then collapsing on the floor. That's when I saw the knife in her back. I couldn't understand what had just happened. And then, a moment later, I was seized with fear. The pupils of her eyes they'd shrunk to tiny pinpoints.
I don't believe it. In other words, you realize that the victim was suffering from the effects of the stolen poison.
My mind started racing. I hadn't seen anything past Miss Brett's lips while I had been with her, which left only one possible way for poison to have entered her body. On the blade and the knife on her back.
And that train of thought was what spurred you to withdraw the blade.
Yes, if the amount that had entered the bloodstream was small enough, she might still have a chance. That's what I had hoped. Really, I'm so sorry for staying silent all this time.
Your attempt to hide the truth of what happened is not something that can be overlooked. However, I have duly noted the courage with which you have confessed in the end.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It's barely perceptible, but I do think the balance has shifted a little here, in this courtroom now.
Your Excellency, do not be deceived. The victim just collapsed before your eyes, you say? Well, Membami-san, if that's the case, perhaps you can explain how Miss Brett came to be stabbed.
Well,
You have no answer because the simple truth is that you stabbed the victim motivated by revenge.
But you have no conclusive evidence to prove that assertion, do you?
Oh, I have evidence, and it is very much conclusive.
What's the prosecution counsel up to? It was brief, but he hesitated for a moment there. I'm almost sure of it.
You will produce the aforementioned evidence at once, Professor Aochi.
Perhaps some praises due, young yokel student.
What?
I had imagined there would be no need for me to submit this evidence. But you brought this on yourself.
What the? Could a more damning shot exist? The cruelty in the air of the speech is almost palpable.
This evidence, more than any other, reveals the true extent of the accused murderous nature.
No, it just shows her trying to pull out the knife.
Report shows the precise moment that Membami-san plunged her dagger into the victim's back.
Okay, first of all, if that was the moment she did it, how did she get on the floor to begin with? You fucking idiot. Come on, think about it for 2 seconds, will you? No, that's not true. No. I don't believe it. Ah! Not you too. Come on, guys. Think of the order of events for just 2 seconds.
Counsel for the defense. Was it you who was responsible for that shrill scream that just pierced my courtroom?
Perhaps his voice has yet to break? These yokels are slow of mind, slow to mature.
I'll show you who's slow to mature.
Careful now, Susato is starting to show her face here. It is often said that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and here we have ample proof. The court will accept this extremely cogent photographic print as evidence.
Who took this picture, by the way? I can't believe he's had a photograph like that up his sleeve the entire time. It's such a stark image, I'm genuinely lost for words. Wait a minute, I don't understand. How did you... I mean, who took that photograph? Huh? Ray.
That's of no importance here. Stop trying to divert attention.
Oh. That's an absurd thing to say. It's crucially important. Whoever took this photographic print was a witness to Miss Brett's death. This court must be allowed to hear this person's testimony.
Ah!
I will uphold the defense's demand. The prosecution will reveal the identity of the person responsible for taking this photograph at once.
Well, I'm afraid I can't do that.
Pardon?
You see, this print arrived at the Imperial Police Bureau headquarters by express post yesterday. But there was nothing to indicate the sender's name or address. The provenance of the print is unknown.
Goodness.
Are we to understand then, counsel, that in full knowledge of the fact that this photograph has the murkiest of origins, you nevertheless believe it to be fit for submission as evidence in the Supreme Court?
When you first produced that print before, I noticed that you hesitated for a brief moment, because you knew that it wasn't completely reliable evidence, didn't you?
Silence, you yokel student and blabbering professor! What matters is the blatant truth that this print is so eloquently expresses.
But the defendant has already admitted to pulling the blade from the wound. Clearly this isn't the moment that a knife was plunged into the victim's back, but
The moment it was withdrawn. Don't waste this court's time with your ramblings.
Indeed. Without knowledge of who produced this print, we have no means of verifying the claim. And the scene it captures is, without doubt, the most compelling evidence presented to the court.
no, it's not. Order of events. Jeez.
If the defense is unable to shed any further light on the matter, I believe the conclusion is clear.
Oh no.
Susato, this is time for you to fight. If what you have established so far is true, then there can be no doubt. This photograph shows the moment that Ray withdrew the blade from the victim.
Yes, we just need to prove that somehow.
You'll have plenty of time to rue your defeat on the slow train back to the provinces. And to rue the day you came up against Takatsuchi Ouchi in the court of law.
If I can't determine who took this photograph, then the trial's gonna come to an end. There must be a clue somewhere. There must be some way of working out who did it. Who took it, sorry.
Well, counsel?
Your Excellency, the burning question is who took that photograph, and the truth is... I don't have them in court record, do I? Well, I'll say no. It's the first trial, so if I say no and it's wrong, then, well, correct me. No. If I give up now, I'll never be able to look Ray in the eye again.
Susato, you need to steel yourself and summon your best argument.
I'll do my best. Oh! Oh, 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 oh. The camera crack. The camera crack. It's the same one. It's the same camera crack as here. Okay, I got it. I got it. There you go. I got it. Sorry, I got it. I'll do my best. This isn't about whether I can or can't come up with the answer now. I simply have to. The identity of the person who took this dramatic photographic print is, I assure you, something the defense can and will reveal.
What? No, you can't possibly. But as you so boldly claim you can, please do enlighten us.
Unfortunately, I'm unable to present a name.
How utterly underwhelming. Did you really believe you could?
However, I am able to present evidence. The defense has a piece of evidence that reveals the important details of the photographer's identity.
What?
Very well then, counsel, present your proof to the court. Which piece of evidence do you claim reveals something about the identity of the mystery photographer?
Good eye.
What is that? The newspaper again. Raucous England returnees tell all.
It's not the headline that's relevant here, Your Excellency. It's the photograph. If you look at it closely, you'll notice that there are some white lines on the right-hand side.
Yes indeed. They had already caught my eye as it happens.
Heh, what of it? A shadow of some kind of, presumably from the branches of a tree or the like.
There are no trees growing inside my laboratory at the university, I can assure you.
Now, if you look closely at this photograph,
Good gracious!
yes, exactly the same pattern of lines is present on this photograph too.
Well, that tells us nothing. Huh, yes, it's a shadow of some kind, definitely, from the branches of a tree.
There wouldn't be any trees growing inside a hut at the beach, Council.
What's quite remarkable about it is that the two patterns are absolutely identical. How could such an extraordinary similarity have transpired?
The curious matching pattern that appears on both photographic prints is a result of a camera defect. Obviously, it must be due to a problem with the camera used to take the photographs.
With the photographic device.
Yes, we can confidently say that the camera's lens must be scratched. And the scratched lens caused unwanted lines to appear on every print taken with the device.
In short, the two photographs under consideration here were taken with the same camera.
But there must be hundreds of such camera devices here in the capital. It would be utterly impossible to identify the owner of this particular one.
I think you're forgetting, Prosecutor Ouchi, that one of the photographs is featured in a newspaper article.
A newspaper? Ah!
That's right. The author of that article is the mystery witness to this crime.
What? What?
Many more? Many more?
I see why you were called a Raucous England returnee.
What are you yelling about? You already testified.
It's many memo, I tell you. Many memo. Memo. Soseki-san, what was that? Did you say many memo? Ever since I returned to Japan, a reporter from the Shoyu News has been hounding me, following my every move. A reporter by the name of Right-Ten Many Memo. Yes, hounding me from dawn till dusk. Ah, now that he mentions it. Could that same reporter be... Oh, a camera to the left of him, a notebook to the right. There I am, stuck in the middle with Right and Many Memo.
So you're saying that this picture was taken by
Many Memo. My lord, your excellency, Esquire. What is it? What? I realize what his name says. Right in. Right in. So right 10 means it's right in many memo. I don't know many. Writing many memo. Oh, there you go. Yeah. I was like, I don't know what many would be. Writing Manny memos. That's what he's doing. That's what I would do. Write Manny memos. Anyway, officer, find this newspaper reporter at once and bring him to my courtroom. We will adjourn for a short recess in the meantime. Oh. Yes, Your Excellency.
As you say, Your Excellency.
And one more thing. I want this knife, the murder weapon, examined for traces of poison. You will solicit the assistance of the Imperial University's medical department for the task, understood?
Many memo.
Alright, I'm gonna take off my shirt. Because I am actually melting. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, that's a to be continued. You know what that means, everyone. It's time for a hydration break for you and me. Everybody get up, go to the bathroom, go get a drink of water, get a drink of something that hydrates you that is not alcohol or coffee. I mean, if you're drinking coffee, then get some water as well. I don't know. I mean, drink some water. And I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick. That's a BRB time. Yeah, it's really warm in my apartment today. I don't know what happened, but the sun decided, oh wait, I don't want it to be fall yet. So I'm making it like the middle of summer today. So it's been really hot today. Anyway, bathroom time. Be right back. No talk Manny Angie. That little drawing of me Angie is by Chu, Lil Chu here in the chat. Also, my PNG tuber is also by Lil Chu. So, yeah, I love using that little Manny Angie image. It's absolutely perfect. He uses it in his streams all the time as well when I'm in the call. Because that's me. I'm Angie. Alright. 13th August, 10:41 a.m. Supreme Court of Judicature, Defendant's Antechamber 3. I'm so sorry, Susato. I should have told you about the toxin. Ray.
You have a strong sense of responsibility, I know. That's why you decided to shoulder the burden alone.
No, that's not it at all. I was scared of my failure coming to light, that's all. So I hoped to retrieve the substance from the Englishwoman before anyone found out. Before the trial started, do you remember what you said, Susato? That you had no doubt in your mind about my innocence, that you'd stand by me to the last. I remember. And yet I didn't deserve you to trust in me. I didn't deserve your trust in me. I hid important details from you, Susato. I completely betrayed your faith in me. Hit me, Susato, I deserve it. No, in fact, throw me to the floor. No, that's too good for me as well. Drag me through the city streets. I'm no better, you know. Oh. Even though in my heart I knew that you'd pulled the knife blade from Miss Brett's back, there was just a brief moment when, in my mind, I doubted you. Susato. I'm sorry. After I stood here and promised you that I'd stand by you and always be on your side, I betrayed your faith in me too. And as such, I failed you as a lawyer. Oh, no, no, no.
I think the situation has taught both of you a valuable lesson. Placing your unbridled faith in another is no easy task.
Yes, Father. That fact has certainly struck home. Which is why I can see more clearly now. So, Ray. Yes? Can you find it in your heart to forgive me?
Oh, Susato. You know you'll always be a gallant, dashing lawyer in my eyes now. Alright. Oh, lesbians. I love the lesbians. I was so scared, you know, when it happened. I didn't know what was going on. The English woman was sitting at the back of the hut, listening to what I was saying. I know it was you who stole the poison. What now? Whatever do you mean? And then a moment later, she suddenly got to her feet before collapsing on the floor in front of me with a knife in her back. It all happened right before my eyes. And you were the only people in the hut at the time? That's right. Just Miss Brett and myself. There was no one else. So I don't understand how she could possibly have been stabbed like that.
Great mystery indeed.
I still can't believe it happened. That's why I just couldn't bring myself to speak up. It'll be alright. However it happened, whatever really went on by the sea that day. I promise you that I'm going to prove everything you've said you saw is true.
Spoken like a true Mikotoba. Now I think we should discuss what's coming up in the trial. Don't you?
What do you say? Some people like a little bit of those wrestling. You know, honestly, I wouldn't put it past her. See, if you remember correctly, Susato is very, very good at wrestling moves, at judo moves, at doing her Susato takedown. So she's probably thinking about that. She's like, man, I wish Susato would do Susato takedown on me. Chu, why did you... Oh my god. Chu just drew the chair. Chu just drew the chair. The BRB chair. It's a transparent image. Chu. Oh my god. Jesus Christ. Our favorite VTuber. I'm literally going to... I know that you drew this chair so it would be behind me while I'm streaming. No, I'm going to use this as a VTuber. This is going to bounce when I'm BRB and I'm talking. That's what you have done. You can't change it anymore. Oh my god. It's not shaded. It doesn't need to be shaded. Fine, whatever. Do what you will. I'm going to use that as a VTuber.
Now, I think we should discuss what's coming up in the trial, don't you? We don't have much time. We must make sure that we have our facts in order.
Yes, I expect the poison is going to come under close scrutiny in the upcoming proceedings. The police should hopefully have identified it on the blade by now. The trouble is, it's a completely new laboratory synthesized blend of alkaloids. The police won't have any way of testing for it. Oh, I see.
Yes, without this chemical reagent, it's impossible to detect the toxin.
Chemical reagent?
I sent a colleague of mine off with some earlier to deliver to the police headquarters. I think perhaps you should have some as well, though, just in case.
Chemical reagent has been entered into the court record. Alright, well, I'm not... Hold on. I need this chemical reagent, I need to use it. Can I... Label appears to be written in a foreign language that I don't know.
It's German, so your knowledge of English is going to be a little help here, I'm afraid.
Couldn't you have written medicine on it in Japanese? Then we'd all be able to read it.
German is the international language of medicine, my dear. But yes, I can certainly see the merit in labeling the bottle in Japanese. Though I'm not sure medicine would be entirely appropriate.
Wait, can I use the reagent on the pen? Because that's what I want to do. Take off the pen's lid. And then the barrel. Actually, that would be on the pen tip, wouldn't it? Okay, we can't use it here yet, but I assume the pen is holding the poison.
What's the matter, Susato? You're suddenly very quiet.
It's this newspaper article. Exclusive deadly poison stolen from Yume Medical Research Laboratory? I'm wondering how the information got out, given that it was a government secret. It was all the Englishwoman's doing. What? It was when the professor and Soseki-san were being interviewed at the laboratory. That so-called English lady swaned in without any compunction, said to Professor Mikotoba. Oh, Professor. Surely your guests would love to hear about your work on that substance there?
You put me in a very awkward position, to be frank. But Soseki-san's curiosity had been piqued, so I had little choice but to give him a cursory introduction.
So then, Soseki-san knew about the poison.
Yes, and it's highly likely that the reporter who was writing up the story about us would have caught a glimpse of the toxin too.
This mini memo, Sam. You sent the right one? Okay. I give it a negative bounce on the chairs. Well, I would if I was sitting in front of the chair. But I'm just going to use it as a VTuber. I'm not joking. When I'm in BRB mode, I'm going to make it bounce like a VTuber. That's what you've given me, that power. You didn't tell me how to use it. I'm gonna use it the way I want to. expect chair BRB tuber tomorrow. By the way, did that reporter join you all when you went to the beach? Oh, no, I don't remember the reporter being there.
Indeed, he shouldn't have been. I very much doubt anyone would have wanted him there.
Oh?
A known criminal had been given permission by the authorities to bathe by the seaside. Soseki-san pointed out that inviting a reporter might be problematic, so the man was sent back to his office. Yet he obviously
didn't go back. He secretly followed the party to the beach and took this very candid photograph. And then presumably he posted it anonymously to the police. Ah.
Yes, that must be what happened. Counsel, we just heard that the new witness is now ready to testify. The trial is about to resume. Please proceed into the courtroom at once.
Oh my god. I'll show that. I'll just show that tomorrow.
Time to steel ourselves once again, then. Defense attorney Ryutaru Naruhodo.
Yes. Rei has put her faith in me now and told me everything. So I can't let her down. I have to prove that what she's telling the court is true. I have to prove what really happened that day. Sorry if I sound different. I'm sitting differently. August, 11:30 a.m. Supreme Court of Judicature, Courtroom 1, or whatever.
I hereby call this court to order as we reconvene to continue the trial of Rei Membami. Professor Ouchi, have you summoned the new witness?
By the way, if you hear my microphone or my game audio like crackling again, let me know, because my headphones are crackling like crazy right now. This is not a DLC case, so the original Great Ace Attorney games, there was 2 of them. This is the second game, and if you buy the Switch version, the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, it comes with both games. Did my voice just crackle right now? Okay.
Prosecutor Ouchi, have you summoned the new witness?
Before I address that question, Your Excellency, I have some very important news to share.
The music. Oh, so the game is crackling. Oh, why is it doing that? Give me 1 second, see if I can figure out why it's doing that. Should be this. Oh, is it? Oh, it's having some interference with the cable. Very interesting. Oh, it's because something's charging here, isn't it? If I take this off, does it do it? I think it's fine now. Okay. Perfect. It's the Elgato. Yeah, I think it was getting some like interference because it's next to some other cables.
I have some very important news to share.
I unplugged the cable that was next to it.
Oh?
What news? And why does he look so happy about it?
During the recess, with the collaboration of Professor Mikotoba's laboratory at Yume University, the police re-examined the knife that was used to end Mr. Zalebrett's life.
Excellent. I admire your rapid handling of the matter.
Oh, too kind, Your Excellency, too kind. I was merely carrying out your instructions, of course.
I have the reagent delivered to the police headquarters by rickshaw, so it would be there in good time. But judging by the man's swagger, I fear we may need to brace ourselves for the inevitable.
And Counsel, what were the results?
This dagger, which was so cruelly used to end the life of the victim, has no trace of poison anywhere along its blade.
What? Are you sure about that?
I would stake the reputation of the police on it.
Armed with the reagent, the test is extremely simple. They couldn't have made a mistake.
The murder weapon has been entered into the courtroom.
In short, the accused's feeble excuse earlier has been utterly destroyed.
Ah!
Now the prosecution is ready to call the new witness.
The newspaper reporter who managed to capture a photograph at the crucial moment. Good. Very well, officer. Bring in the witness.
No trace of poison on the knife. But if that's really the case, how could the toxin have entered the victim's body? Through the pen. Through the pen. Why does he have blue on his hand? He's not using a pen, he's using a pencil. Anyway.
Witness, please state your name and occupation for the court.
Write in many memo. Write in many memo of the Shoyu News. I'm what people like to call a journo. Boy, what do those initials say? Isn't it weird that he's writing using a pencil right now, but his hand is smudged with ink that would be used for a pen? How strange. Isn't it weird that the logo of the pen is on his armband? Okay, well, there you go. What's a journal, Father? Do you know?
It's simply a contradiction of journalists.
I'm there where... Oh, okay, you know what? No, he definitely has a British accent even though he's here. I'm there where the news breaks, putting pen to paper to catch those scoops so then in print the next morning. They don't call me the hero of the Herald for nothing. The nice guy of news. Oh, so, it was you who took this photograph, was it? Well, well, what have we here? I'm sorry? Oh, brace yourselves, people! Many memo senses a scoop in the offing. Female student up to foul play, defended by curiously handsome young lawyer in Supreme Court. The readers will lap this up. We'll set it above the fold at a 72 point in a 5-leg format for the morning edition. Huh? Right then, let's start with your name. Oh, it's Ryutaru Naruhodo. Next, what made you want to become a lawyer? Well, I wanted to reform our country's legal system, I suppose.
Ryotaro has suddenly become very ambitious, I see.
I just borrowed Kazuma-sama's dream for a while.
By the way, my name is Taketsuchi Aochi. That's Taketsuchi Aochi. The so-called dark horse of the Supreme Court, my objections strike fear into every defense lawyer's heart.
No, the readers won't buy that.
What?
Witness? Yes.
What this court demands to know is whether or not you were responsible for the taking of this picture. It was delivered anonymously to the Imperial Police Bureau only yesterday.
Yeah, I wouldn't be a journal if I didn't click quick when it was presented with a scoop like that, now would I?
Sometimes stories call out to me, sometimes I have to chase them down, but either way you gotta be fast. Fast likes to run with and fast hand to write with. It's no good if you don't note it down, I always say. And that's what I call my many memoism. My many memoism. Many memoism? Oh yes, I remember your face. We met that day when you were interviewing myself in Soseki-san.
Okay, this is getting annoying. Hold on. Is it doing that to itself? Do I just have to like extend the cable out? I need a shorter cable is what I need. And move it like this. Hopefully that'll fix things for now. For the crackling. Let me know if it goes back to crackling at any point.
But you were supposed to be going back to the Show You News offices after our meeting. But the scoop is, I didn't. Because that Englishwoman's words had piqued my journalistic interest. Miss Brett's words. A criminal left to do as she pleases just because she happens to be a British citizen? It's horse dung. This country's judiciary is rotten to the core. The Supreme Court's rulings aren't worth the paper they're written on. The police are just imperial pawns.
Stay your tongue, young man. There are complex political issues at play.
Well, anyway, I quickly jotted down those words she said in my memo pad. Are you ready? I'll read it out. It's all here. Right here it goes. I should like to go with everyone to see your country's coast. A serious criminal going on some junket? People need to know about this. That's why I decided to sneak after them. To get the woman's story so I could hammer her in the press. Do you mean to say that you did indeed witness it firsthand? The grim scene portrayed in this photograph. Oh yes, I saw it with my very own journal eyes. From start to finish. Through the viewfinder of my trusty camera. Thank you, Many Memo-san. You will now formally give testimony to the court. You will state exactly what it is that you witnessed of the events surrounding Miss Brett's death. Witness testimony. Camera never lies. The beach hut was made of shoddy old reed screens, so there were plenty of gaps I could see inside through. The Englishwoman was sitting on a stool when the student girl came in and started arguing with her. Seconds later, the girl pulled out a knife, throwing the Englishwoman to the floor as she stabbed her in the back. My smoldering journal spirit burst into flames. Quick as a flash, I whipped out my camera, ready to click. I pulled apart the rough weave of one of the screens and poked the lens to the perfect shot. Reed screens, you say? Right. You can see them clearly enough in that great shot I snapped. The hut walls were just screens made of coarsely woven reeds. Yes, it allows the breeze to pass through and bring some relief from the summer heat. And it was a breeze for me to poke my camera through and see the whole thing hotting up. Ignoring for the time being the appalling invasion of privacy involved, did you witness everything that happened from the moment the defendant entered the hut? Oh yes, I saw it. I saw the whole thing from start to finish. And you say you took the photograph through a gap in one of the screens. Luckily for me, they were pretty shoddily woven. I pulled the reeds apart and thrust the lens of my camera through the gap. Would I get away with it, or would I be seen? It was the gamble of a lifetime.
A tenacity of purpose that's considered admirable in a journalist, I suppose.
Run a risk one day, run a scoop the next. That's mini memoism in a nutshell. At last, it would appear we have a genuine witness to this wicked crime. The evidence and testimony are extremely compelling. I believe we may be close to a verdict. No.
Wonderful news, Your Excellency. Wonderful.
Nevertheless, it cannot be denied that this testimony begs one very large question.
What question?
Exclusive news, a startling photograph, all the makings of an exceptional story for the reporter. Why then was the story never published? Oh, that's right. Seems clear to me that there are circumstances at play here that are yet to be understood.
More pathetic excuses.
Very well then, Counsel. Proceed with your cross-examination.
Yes, Your Excellency. There's more to this reporter than meets the eye. He's keeping something about this case very close to his chest. Ace Attorney writers continue the streak of hating journalists. Yep. Okay, English woman was sitting on a stool when the student girl came in and started arguing with her. Pulled the knife, stabbed her in the back. Actually, I haven't looked at the knife yet. There's nothing of note here, really.
Ah, yes, this must be the victim's blood.
Oh dear, blood is never a pretty sight, is it? Having to fight the urge to run it under a hot tap and get it clean.
You've always been fastidious about cleanliness, haven't you?
I think there's something else, Father. There's a little slit here where you can tell that something was opened. Was there anything around here? Oh, actually, that placement is perfect because if she was sitting in the back facing her, then he could have easily just stabbed her right there. Look at that. That's where the seat is. That's where the hole is that he was peeking through. He couldn't see behind her. He could just hear everything. Alright. My smoldering journal spirit burst into flames. Quick as a flash, I whipped out my camera ready to click. Alright. Pulled apart the rough weave of one of the screens and poked the lens for the perfect shot. Let me press this. Mata! So you actually saw Mbami-san entering the hut. Yep, and she was raging like my journal spirit. Argument you mentioned. What's that about exactly? You stole it. I didn't steal it. That kind of thing. Talking about the poison, I suppose. The student girl walked right up to the English woman and really started laying into her. I mean, if she laid into her anymore, there would have been eggs. What? Hold on.
The man should have been an author. His descriptive talents are wasted on journalism.
But the student's rantings fell on deaf ears, like a Japanese person listening to English for the first time. He really ought to work on his similes first, though, to be honest. Anyway, the point is, that woman in the dock was mightily angry.
And her temper finally got the better of her, it seems. Dear me.
Which was the climactic moment that I caught on film. Seconds later, the girl pulled out a knife, throwing the English woman to the floor. She stabbed her in the back. Okay. Let me press this. Oh, sorry. I almost gave Ouchie's voice to Susato here. Do you swear before this court that you actually saw the precise moment when the stabbing took place? Ha! The precise moment? I didn't see just that. I saw the whole hellish scene play out, from start to finish.
I have here such a simple plan of the beach hut. Perhaps you can use it to explain to the court exactly what you witnessed.
Yes, perfect. That's what I needed. Thank you, Ouchie. Right you are. It's all here in my memo pad. When I first peered into the hut... Hold on. There you go. When I first peered into the hut, I'm sure that the English woman was on the stool at the back of the hut here.
Yes, the accused's own testimony confirmed that.
She just sat at the back of the hut smiling sweetly. Is that what I have noted down? It's my turn to testify now. Try not to interrupt. Then, the next moment, as I was washing, the evil student girl entered the hut. After a while, the pair of them ended up in the middle of their hut, arguing furiously. The Englishwoman went for the student, but the girl dodged out of the way, and in a flash plunged the knife into her adversary's back as the two passed each other. What you describe as a grim crime indeed. Never sugarcoat the truth. That's what many memoism says. Beach hut plan has been entered into the court record. By the way, Many Memo-san, whilst you were watching that terrible scene unfold before your eyes throughout the gap in the screen, did it not occur to you to try to prevent the tragedy, rather than capture it on film? Journalists have to be observers. We can't get involved. That's our raison d'etre. Raison d'etre. So you didn't converse with Miss Brett at all? Obviously not. An observer always remains on the outside looking in. That's something to be proud of, is it?
Your Excellency, if I may. Yes, Professor. I think the witness's last expertly phrased statement should perhaps be added to his formal testimony.
Father, what are you...
I'll grant the defense request. Many Memo-san, you will supplement your formal testimony with the aforementioned statement.
Well, nihilism is the foundation of many memoism, but I'll gladly prove that my words aren't meaningless. What? What did you just say? Oh my god. Never once set foot in the hut, nor spoke with the Englishwoman. I was only there as an observer. Well then, in that case, where the heck did you stand? Because everything was blocking your view here. Or not, I guess. Okay, fine. I wish I could just present something, like my opinion or whatever. Let's just press this. Really? You didn't set foot inside the hut at all? Are you quite sure about that? I think you may have the wrong impression of me. We're talking about a murder scene here. My nerves are stretched to breaking point already. Oh, I see. You were scared. Maybe I did have the wrong impression of you. Yes. It was all I could do to stifle a scream and hold my hand steady enough to snap the shot.
You really should have summoned help before thinking of your camera.
Many memoism and humanism don't always agree. And most of the time in those instances, many memoism comes out on top. As a sculptor of stories, sometimes I have to be cruel for my art. Yes, that's spot on. Surely he's making all this up.
Claims to have spied the whole affair from the start to finish. If true, his testimony is devastating.
But it does seem as though he's holding something back, doesn't it?
If that's how you feel, I suggest that you trust your instincts and press him on everything he said. As you've no doubt seen done many times before in your role as the judicial assistant.
Yes, I have. I've seen witnesses like this pressed often. I know exactly what to do. The other thing I feel like I can present would be the pen, right? But I don't think I've proved that it's his yet. I don't know. This is one where I have all of the answers, but I don't know how they want me to present the answers. What made you want to see what was happening inside the beach hut in the first place?
Call it journal instinct.
Can you think of a better reason? I don't know. Perhaps because as well as being a proven criminal, the person inside was a young woman? Ah, I see where you're going with this.
Brace yourselves, people. He's painting the journal as a voyeur.
It's hardly slander, sir. You had a camera and you were taking pictures without the woman's knowledge. I need to re-inspect your evidence. You might have missed something. Okay. Does that mean that there's new dialogue with this, maybe? It doesn't look like it. Nothing to say here. Yeah, because I could see that she was sitting here. This man stabbed her while he was looking through the thing, so there's a gap here. And it's clear that he stabbed her. These footprints... I can't really tell. I remember that pin tripped me up, but I think you caught it. Yeah, I saw the thing, but... sorry? To my mind, all that was inside that hut was a scoop, nothing more, nothing less. Scoop's no known gender, man or woman, it's all news. That's not even many memoism, that's basic journalism. Picture does not align with his layout. Does it? I think it does, it's just he never said where he was. Yeah, everything is in the same place other than this bottle. I don't know where this bottle came from. Yeah, everything is in the same place. It's just the journalism never said where he was. 3 genders, man, woman, and Scoop. If only the quorum was as indiscriminate. Right, so if that's all buttoned up, can we move on? So the court then witness, what sight befell your eyes when you looked inside the hut? The Pizza Hut? I saw a pizza! The sight that vindicated my journal instinct, that's what. And I pulled back the reeds, I can see her as clear as day. I meant the one with the knife on her back. Actually, you're right, I haven't looked at that one better. Yeah, because the entrance is over there. It's clearly from behind. She is on the side, you're right. Hold on. Never set foot in the hut nor spoke with the Englishwoman. I was only there as an observer. So what I'm going to do here, first I'm going to present this pen. There you go. It was this, okay. Many Memo-san, up until now, I had a firm belief that newspapers are in the business of uncovering and publishing the truth. You're spot on there. Press doesn't lie, which is why I'm proud to wear the emblem of the Shoyu News on my arm. In a way, that's more many memoism. Sadly, though, it seems the journalists who write for those papers don't always share the same passion for the truth. What are you suggesting with those recriminatory words, Counsel? Many Memo-san, do you recognize this fountain pen? This pen was found at the scene of Miss Brett's death. In fact, the murdered victim was gripping it in her hand as she died. What are you... If you look at the barrel of the pen, you'll notice that its owner's initials are engraved there. RM. Yes, thank you for bringing that up, Counsel. The initials of the accused, Raymembami. Is it a coincidence, I wonder, that your initials are also RM? No! Raiten Many Memo. RM. That's horse dung. Can't you see, one of the central tenets of many memoism is being a pencil user. And yet, as the court will clearly be able to see, on your right hand, there's a very obvious blue ink stain. It would appear that you must have rather carelessly left it somewhere recently. Your favorite fountain pen, that is. Horsey horse dung! Many Memo-san, is it not the case that before she died, you met with Giselle Brett in that beach hut? Why should we listen to this absurd nonsense? It's nothing but another excuse! Exactly. Shoyu News will stand behind me all the way. I deny everything. There must be as many people with the initials RM as there are stars in the night sky. The defense has neither the time nor the inclination to count every star in the sky. And there's no need, anyway, because this pen has more to tell. Yes, there's another clue. A clue that undeniably proves who its owner really is. In that case, Counsel, the defense will now show the court where this alleged clue lies. Of course, Your Excellency. The clue on this fountain pen that clearly reveals its owner identity is on the bottom, right there. Kokoda! As well as the initials, there's also an emblem on this fountain pen. An emblem that you will of course recognize, Many Memo-san. Goodness me, it's the emblem of the Shoyu News! In other words, the owner of this pen is an employee of the Shoyu News, whose initials are RM. Suddenly the stars in the night sky don't seem so numerous, do they? Well, Many Memo-san, how do you respond? No!
Order, order. Explain yourself, witness.
So this is how the mighty Supreme Court works, is it? Using coercive tactics to have well-meaning citizens reveal harmless secrets. I've used nothing but honest tactics. Alright then. Fine. I won't try to hide it anymore. Yes, not long before that grim tragedy unfolded, I, a Show You News reporter on behalf of the public, conducted an interview with the Englishwoman. An interview?
You never mentioned this before.
When exactly was this? As I said, it was before that evil little student girl showed her face in the hut. Couldn't have lasted more than 2 or 3 minutes, that's all. It was all just a brief exchange. But it came to nothing. And as we many memoists say, the people don't pay their dues for unworthy news. Thank you, Boshama, for redeeming the fart. It did not sound on my end. Did it sound for you guys? That's so weird. Hold on. Hold on, let's make this guy fart up a couple times. Why no fart? There you go. Now it sounded. Okay. Weird, it like skipped on my end. I'm glad that you guys can hear the fart. But it came to nothing. As we many memoists say, people don't pay their dues for unworthy news. However insignificant you deem it to be, this court cannot overlook the meeting between yourself and the victim. You will testify now under oath about the precise nature of this meeting and what transpired. Got it, yes, alright. But on one condition.
Condition?
In all good conscience, I couldn't speak out alone about this. You need to call back the earlier witnesses, Soseki Natsume-san. Soseki-san? Oh yes, according to my notes here, that man has a secret of his own, and brace yourselves, because it's not a harmless one, it's big. What? Thank you for the Monch, Boshamo. Many memoism states that one man's secret is every other man's front page story. Really?
Yeah.
Hold on. You gotta open the Monch snack. It's another Cliff Builder's protein bar. I like these, they taste really good. It's hard to find good protein bars, but these are good. Officer, summon the earlier witness back to the stand. Soseki-san, hiding something? Oh, I don't know. Very good. Thank you for the munch. I asked the Englishwoman for an interview, but she declined, so I left the hut without making a fuss. Then, watching secretly from outside, I saw the woman being stabbed and the other witnesses come running. The detective realized that the victim still had a pulse, so he ran off to fetch help. That's when this writer man here asked the woman a very significant question. But he didn't say anything about that in his testimony, which is why many memoism demands I reveal it now. Well, what is it? You mean to say that the victim...
The victim regained consciousness?
And
what you did, you decided to ask her a question?
That's, true, yes. He did, and that's not all. Woman gave him a very definite answer. An answer that incriminates the accused.
This is preposterous. Why am I only hearing about this now? Why didn't you mention this before, you yokel hack?
It wasn't even a conversation. Yes, I did post the Withering English Rose a question, I don't deny it. But she could no longer speak. She was barely conscious, even. Counsel for the defense, I expect a thorough cross-examination to be conducted here. The court must and will know the truth. Absolutely, Your Excellency. Reporters claiming that Miss Brett implicated Ray somehow? What on earth could have happened in that hut? Why didn't he say the words in his testimony? Okay, so what is it? Soseki-san? Are you trying to hide something? Don't look at me like that! Soseki-san, you must tell the court everything that happened. Well, in truth, I've been catching crabs at the water's edge and building castles in the sand, you see.
Well, the seaside is a place to be at leisure, I suppose, even for a grown man.
But then all of a sudden, from that little beach hut, a young girl's panic-stricken cries for help pierced the air. Ray! I ran up the beach to see what was happening, to find the defendant leaning over the collapsed victim. As soon as Inspector Hosonaga saw Miss Brett on the ground, he sprinted off to get help. And then, just a moment later, I heard a faint moan. A moan from the dead Englishwoman. I nearly jumped out of my skin! But what did you ask her, Soseki-san? I asked her, who did this to you?
Don't protract this any longer.
Wait, is my... Okay, there we go. My microphone is acting up, sorry. She didn't! She said nothing in response! But...
When in the stand, you will answer the questions asked of you unambiguously. Now, without evasion or reticence, I demand that you amend your testimony.
I will! I asked her who did this to you, but she never replied. She just lifted a trembling finger and pointed in the direction of the defendant. Miss Brett pointed a finger at the defendant? Soseki-san, is that really true? It's not easy to stand here and say this, but when we first entered the beach hut, the Englishwoman was sprawled on the floor before us, with the student girl standing on the far side of her. When asked who did this to you, the Englishwoman summoned her last ounce of strength to point a trembling finger at the back of the hut, which was, can't be denied, in the direction of the student girl who stands accused today. No.
Soseki-san, why on earth did you neglect to mention this in your original testimony?
But, fiddlesticks, I say.
This is not a British court of law. We will respond in Japanese.
Yes, of course, the Englishwoman did point her finger towards the back of the hut, but I was trembling, and she was trembling, and everything was a blur. And thinking about it, I feel as though perhaps she was pointing in a slightly different direction. Actually, no, not slightly, in a very different direction to where the student girl was standing. To somewhere at the back of the hut where nobody was standing at all. You mean that your memory of events and the direction in which the victim was pointing are both unclear? Yes, that's it, unclear. I'm very, very unclear.
Your Excellency, surely this proves the matter beyond all reasonable doubt. Yes, the woman may barely have been conscious, and yes, perhaps her finger wavered slightly, but there can be no doubt that this was an attempt by the victim to confirm the identity of her assailant. Why? Because, as the court can see, there was no one other than the accused in the direction the victim was pointing. It is now abundantly clear that no one besides the accused could have possibly committed the crime.
I'm inclined to agree. And in the absence of any credible argument to the contrary, I believe we can now conclude this trial.
No. No! I just have to present the picture if it lets me. The headline's writing itself. Dashing lawyers hopes dash 92 point across the whole page. We'll do an extra edition.
This is a serious blow, Susato. Unless we're able to identify the true culprit and substantiate our claim with evidence, the judge will give his ruling and the trial will be over.
But that's impossible, Father. We don't even know how the crime was committed yet. I do know. It's super easy. Possible that the task may seem, we have no choice. We must think back over everything we've learned thus far. Somewhere in all those details, I'm confident we'll find the clue we need. Ray gave us her account of how defense unfolded in the defendant's antechamber before the trial resumed. She told us what happened at the precise moment Miss Brett was killed. The Englishwoman was sitting at the back of the hut, listening to what I was saying, and then a moment later, she suddenly got to her feet, before collapsing on the floor in front of me, with a knife in her back. How could Miss Brett have been stabbed in the back at a beach hut that was empty but for herself and Ray? Somewhere amid all the information we've gathered so far, I know what it is. It's that picture. I just have to present this. Because of that little tiny thing in the background. That's all. Take it then the defense has nothing further to add.
So, the gallant yokel student's luck finally runs out. I can't say I'm surprised.
In that case, I am ready to deliver my final verdict on this matter.
There's a crucial turning point now. If I can't establish what really happened, it's over. Where was the real culprit hiding? And how did he or she stab the victim? I know how. Objection, she says in Japanese. Igiari. Your Excellency, I respectfully ask to postpone your adjudication for the time being.
A toot. Oh, to what end, counsel?
The defense would like to present the court with an alternative theory. An alternative theory that can explain who the victim was actually trying to implicate with her dying gesture.
An alternative theory? Huh, none exists.
There was someone else present at the scene who could have committed this crime.
What?
And the victim, Miss Brett, tried to reveal who it was to those around her at the time, by mustering all her remaining strength and pointing a trembling finger in the killer's direction.
This is fiction, fantasy.
Very well, as you seem so sure of yourself, counsel, I am prepared to hear your alternative theory. So, young Ryutaro Naruhodo?
Yes, Your Excellency?
You will present your latest theory to the court by means of this plan. The moment of the victim was stabbed, where exactly are you proposing the culprit was concealed?
Easy. Outside the hut, right here. Naruhodo-san would never give up, and I'm Naruhodo now. I mean, that's true, I guess. The culprit who truly fatally stabbed Miss Brett was concealed in this location here.
Are you mad, counsel? You're suggesting the culprit was outside the hut?
What?
Order, order, order.
But student lawyer Naruhodo-san Esquire, that makes no sense at all. You've just pointed out the exact spot where I was hiding to get my scoop snap. But I didn't see any suspicious individuals loitering about, I can swear to that.
Obviously, if the culprit had been outside the hut, there's no way that he or she could have stabbed the victim who was inside the hut.
Actually, Prosecutor Ouchi, there is a way. And, in point of fact, the defense can provide evidence strongly suggesting that is precisely the way Miss Brett was killed.
You're bluffing! You're bluffing, you yokel!
The defense's assertion is clearly too fantastical for the court to comprehend. You will need to give us more guidance, counsel. What piece of evidence corroborates your theory that the victim was stabbed from outside the hut? The original photographic print of the crime scene.
Yes, it's clearly visible in this print. The trace of the fatal thrust that was delivered from outside the beach hut.
Do you take us for fools? There's no hint of any such thing.
I'm not sure that everyone present would agree. Someone, at least, appears to have noticed what it is that I'm referring to.
Counsel, once again, I must call on you to be explicit for this court. Where on this photograph is the trace of the stabbing which you claim took place from outside the hut?
Right here. Look closely just here. In the screen at the back of the hut, you can see the effects of a blade having been forced through the reeds.
No, I can't see any such thing.
It's true that the hut in question had 4 walls as you'd expect. However, by parting the reeds, a knife blade could easily penetrate them.
This is extraordinary.
Yes. The true culprit actually stabbed the victim from outside the beach hut. And everyone present at the scene, there's only one person who could have done that. Only one person who was directly outside the hut when Miss Brett was killed. Write in many memos-san, it could only have been you. No! Just look at the photograph again! The victim lies almost exactly in the center of the beach hut, does she not? Are we to assume as part of this farcical scenario that the assailant was a knife thrower? Oh god, the audio sounds terrible on my end. Oh, what's going on? What happened? Why is it doing this? Why? Okay, it sounds really terrible on my end. It's so weird. No, of course not. We're not! If you recall the testimony of the defendant about the events just before the victim's death. Inside the beach hut, I confronted Miss Brett. But she just sat on a stool at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly at me as if she knew she was untouchable. A stool? Oh, did my microphone just die out? What the? I hear a lot of crackling. Yeah, it's fine now. I honestly have absolutely no idea what this is doing. Have another look at the photograph. The slit in the read screen would align perfectly with the back of the person who was sitting on that stool.
My word. So, in fact, the victim was
Killed while sitting on the stool by a stab wound to her back delivered through the read screen. Ah! Having been attacked, Miss Brett rose to her feet instinctively. But then, unable to speak, she collapsed on the floor in the middle of the hut, before the defendant, Membami-san's appalled eyes. And that, Your Excellency, is the truth of what happened on the beach that day. By your silence, Benimemo-san. I take it that you don't deny the charge. This is absurd!
That will do. It would appear that we have a tacit admission of guilt from the witness. Accordingly, this court has successfully established the truth of the matter, which means that the defendant, Membami-san, is innocent of the crime.
Oh, thank goodness. I finally made him cave.
I must say, I've never been more proud.
No, this can't be. The Ouchi clan can't. What, my growth of hope. It wasn't at all an operation. I can't accept this. I won't.
I see no reason for the continuance of this trial. I will therefore move to conclude proceedings by delivering my final verdict and...
Hold it. Well, this is all very convenient. This is how the highest court in our mighty empire delivers justice, is it? Suppressing well-meaning citizens' freedom to speak and branding them as criminals. But we've established that the victim was stabbed from outside the hut, through the read screen walls.
And no one but you was in the place at the time to have his hand on the hilt of the blade. It's a perfectly logical deduction.
So, your argument hinges on the location of whoever stabbed the Englishwoman, does it? Well, it all seems a little irrelevant now. Irrelevant? Where she was stabbed, how she was stabbed. It doesn't matter. I mean, whether she was stabbed at all makes no difference, if you think about it. After all, this trial's already shown the whole thing hinges on something else. Oh yeah, that she was poisoned. What are you talking about? Brace yourselves, little man. I'm talking about the fact that everything's changed. Because the dirt you dug up. What?
Enough obscurity. Explain yourself, witness.
What's to explain? I'm talking about the poison, of course. The poison? Let's ask the professor for a comment on the situation, shall we? I understand that a deadly poison you were developing was stolen from your laboratory, correct?
It's been shown that this poison was administered to the victim, Miss Brett. Is that right? That is correct. An unusual constriction of the victim's pupil are a sure sign that this particular poison was used.
Okay, Bushamo, bye. Thank you for passing by. I think this trial is almost over. I see. So presumably that means that the victim already had the poison in her body before she was stabbed? Ah.
Given that her pupils are clearly constricted, it seems highly likely, yes. She had been dead already. The poison could not have circulated in her blood.
How refreshing to hear the argument of a metropolitan mind. Precisely. It matters not a jot who stabbed whom and whose back and who with whose blade. Because, quite simply, the Englishwoman's life was taken not by the knife, but by the poison.
But that can be explained by the poison being on the blade, as I already...
Forgotten already, have we, yokel? During these very proceedings, the laboratory of the professor at your side assisted in proving that the blade of the weapon used to attack the victim had no trace of poison on it whatsoever.
So let me get this down. The facts, as skillfully established by the defense in this trial, turn out to be a headline-making red herring. Is that about right?
Order. But where does this leave us? How, in that case, did the poison enter the victim's body? There's an undeniably obvious answer to that. The lady most likely imbibed it.
You mean she drank it?
Have another look at the photograph here. As you can see, a bottle of carbonated water and a glass had been knocked onto the sandy floor of the beach hut.
Oh, it's exactly the same thing as before. The carbonated water was poisoned.
Poison could have been slipped into either.
So somebody made Miss Brett drink it. Well, what do you know? Look at those dashing eyes. They make for a good front page shot. Hey, why the bewitching stare? After all, I'm the last person you should be looking at. It makes no sense at all that I poisoned the woman, wouldn't it? I mean, that's been established already. Established? What are you talking about? Don't tell me you've forgotten. That's a little hard to believe, given that the person who established it was you. Me? What on earth does he mean? Oh, let me capture those wide eyes. This is prime press fodder, this is.
It would seem that this trial is not destined to end yet, after all. I hereby...
Did my microphone cut off just there, as I was saying in the middle of that sentence? Something is going on with all my connections right now. I think it might be my microphone itself that's doing a lot of this. It's really annoying.
I hereby call upon the witness to give further testimony.
That's great, that is. Let me get a shot of that magnificent beard, Your Excellency.
You claim it to be impossible that you were the one responsible for administering the poison to the victim. You will explain to the court in your testimony the basis upon which you make such a claim. I'm a journalist, and I'm a man. I've never tried to run or hide from anything in my life.
I'm not about to start now, because that's many memoism. For a brief moment, I thought I'd illuminated the truth, but it slipped right back into obscurity again. Just where is this trial going to take us? Yeah, it wasn't to be continued, so this is probably the end of it. Oh yes, I stabbed the Englishwoman, and that is a very fact that proves I'm innocent. Excuse me? Because why would I have bothered to stab the woman if I'd already poisoned her? When I heard the student girl and that pompous English murderer arguing, it got my goat. If the courts weren't going to punish Brett for what she did, someone else would have to see the justice done. So he had motive too, is what he's saying. So you admit it then, that everything that happened as I described. That you're the one who stabbed Miss Brett in the back through the read screen. Oh, whoop. Hello? Hello? History, please. You can't blame this miserable country. You can blame this miserable country of ours, is what he said. A country that bows to the pressure of foreign powers and lets murderers walk free. What kind of future can a country like that have? That's why I did it. I did what our pathetic leaders didn't have the guts to do. Slap bang in the middle of that charming lady's back, I plunged the blade of sweet justice right in there. As someone who spends his life seeing that the truth is told, I feel really, really awful about giving false information in my testimony before. But as it turns out, there was somebody else who had it in for the victim and got to her before me. That's right, you guessed it. That pretty little student girl. Now there's a woman after my own heart. You're implicating Ray again. She's the one who gave the poison to the Englishwoman and ended her pitiful existence. And suddenly, snap! This journal here is off the hook. The argument is sound, clearly. If the witness had administered the poison himself, he need only have waited for it to take effect. Subsequently stabbing the oh my god, oh I'm burping suddenly. Subsequently stabbing the victim in the back would have been entirely nonsensical.
And therefore, this reporter had nothing to do with the poisoning. Yes, it's all quite logical.
That's right, it is. Logical and true. I'm glad you've all seen the light. Justice at last. This is unbelievable. After I made so much progress in proving his guilt, is he going to get away with it now? Think of Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo-san. They never stopped looking for a way forward until the judge's final gavel. Very well then, counsel. Proceed with what I assume to be your final cross-examination in this trial. Yes, Your Excellency. As I stabbed the Englishwoman, that fact proves I'm innocent. Because why would I have bothered to stab the woman if I'd already poisoned her? When I heard this student girl and that pompous English murderer arguing and got my goat, if the courts weren't going to punish Brett for what she had done, someone else would have seen the justice done. Okay. Now, I'm curious if it's going to let me do this now, because I'm 100% sure. Hold on. It's the tip again, my bad. Oops, my bad. It's not going to let me, but I feel like the poison was held in here. No, it's not going to say anything. Never mind. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. What exactly were they arguing about? About what happened in the restaurant 9 months ago, that's what. The student girl was laying into the Englishwoman for killing her beloved mentor, Dr. Wilson. Yes, John H. Wilson, professor of medicine, invited here from England by Professor Mikotoba, no less. Right, but the Englishwoman just jeered.
Her case was to be heard by the British Consular Court in Shanghai, however, there's little doubt that she would simply have been acquitted and sent back to her homeland a free woman.
It was eating that student girl up inside. You could see it. I really felt for her. Hold it. I can't. I can't stand here and listen to this tripe. Ray.
Young girl, you stand accused here. You can't just blurt out whenever you feel like it.
No, you can't. Sorry, but I'm in the middle of some very important testimony here. Just keep quiet and listen. But this is awful. Man is making all of this up. Susato, please, you have to make them listen. Return to the dock at once, Membami-san. We're in the middle of a cross-examination. Your Excellency, please, I implore you. That journalist is clearly not a trustworthy witness. Exactly. He's a filthy, rotten, black-hearted, bigoted, dirty, grape-peeping Tom. Whoa, take it easy there. Please, I really think the court should hear what the defendant has to say.
Your Excellency, I see no need whatsoever to entertain the accused's remarks.
I will grant the request of the defense.
But Your Excellency...
This is likely to be the final cross-examination of these proceedings. As such, I believe it would be ill-advised to stifle the defendant's obvious concerns. So, whilst recognizing this contravenes regular protocol, I hereby call upon the defendant to speak.
Oh, I had to sneeze, I'm sorry. Oh. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Cool. Is this where I get to do the multiple people? It was nothing to do with Dr. Wilson. We were discussing the stolen poison. Okay. I'm gonna press this. The stolen poison that killed the victim, you mean? I suspected her of being the one to steal it. I mean, I just think about how she killed Dr. Wilson.
That's true. Additionally, Miss Brett certainly had the knowledge of the new poison. But surely it would be no easy task to steal a highly secret toxin being developed for the government. Indeed, all visitors to the laboratory are thoroughly searched when they leave. Even if a thief managed to avoid being seen by myself or a colleague, getting the poison out would be very difficult. That's true. I pestered Professor Mikotowa until he agreed to show me the poison when I visited his laboratory. But as I left, I was searched from top to tail. Miss Brett rather bluntly revealed the existence of the toxin we'd been developing, you see. And since Soseki-san expressed such interest in it, I felt unable to refuse. Obviously, I gave nothing away other than the fact that it was an extremely potent substance. I'm very ashamed of myself, it's just that I've had a singularly terrible experience with a deadly poison. I wanted to look my old enemy in the eye, surely you can understand that. To find out if my suspicions were true, I confronted Miss Brett about the poison. I told her that if there were to be an incident involving it somehow, it wouldn't just be the university. The military would be dragged into it. The whole government even. It would be a complete disaster. And how did Miss Brett respond to your concerns?
She just curled those beautiful lips of hers, and said she didn't know the first thing about it. In English, actually.
Yes, many memo-san. One small question, if you don't mind.
I do mind. Can't you see I'm busy?
Clearly you were outside the beach hut listening in whilst the defendant and Miss Brett were conversing. Presumably, then, it was you who wrote this article about what you had heard. Exclusive. Deadly poison stolen from Yume Medical Research Laboratory. Story was published in this morning's edition of Shoryu News. The details are too accurate for it to have been written by anyone else.
Sorry, don't know what you're talking about. Yes, look at this! The entire article is almost what I said to Miss Brett, word for word. Well, Many Memo-san?
As a journal, and as a citizen of a free country, I don't have to reveal my sources. That's a founding principle of Many-Memoism.
Father's clearly right about this. The reporter did write that article, and he based it on what he overheard from outside the hut. So that's what it was all about. You were trying to cover up the fact that you were listening in. That's why you came up with that stinking story about me arguing with her.
Shut up. My stories never sink. Look, whatever you say, little girl, it doesn't alter the facts. Your Excellency, there's something I want to say, and I want it to go on record. Very well, you may amend your formal testimony.
The point is, if you poison someone, there'd be no reason to then go and stab the person as well. Well... perhaps you doubted the efficacy of the poison and sought to make sure your victim would die.
That's horse dung.
What? That would be like pouring pepper on your Chinese ramen before you even tasted it. Completely reckless. Although it might surprise you to learn that I am a bit of an impetuous pepper pourer as it happens. Once the victim had taken the poison, she would have been only minutes away from death. And yet this man then proceeded to stab her in the back as well. There must have been a good reason for that.
If it was a reporter who gave the poison to Miss Brett, then clearly he must have done it prior to Ray entering the hut.
Yes, that's undeniable. Hello? Thank you. Jesus, microphone, come on.
But between him leaving the hut and the victim being stabbed, there was one very crucial change in the situation.
Sorry? What change?
The reporter overheard the conversation between Ray and the Englishwoman.
Ah, yes, that's it. Jeez. Come on, microphone. Hello? Okay. It's just getting progressively worse. Why? You don't do this when I'm in calls or anything. It's only when I'm playing games. Oh, yes, that's it. That's when Menimomo-san first found out the exact nature of the poison he'd use. That could be the key here.
If the victim had unwittingly taken the poison already, then the reporter would have had no reason to stab her. On the face of it, that logic sounds entirely reasonable.
There's no question that this man was responsible for Miss Brett's murder.
If we could think of a plausible explanation as to why he might have stabbed her even after the poisoning, I feel sure that everything would drop into place. That's what we should be looking for.
Yes, I agree, and in order to do that, I must try to glean more information. Present. Would it be this that I have to present? Oh, maybe he didn't want to bring the whole military into it or something? Well, let me present this. Yeah, okay. That was correct. Well, I can think of one reason.
What?
But before I explain, I'd like you to confirm something for the court. Did you glean all the information for this newspaper article from what you overheard outside the hut? Of course he did. There can be no question of that. After all, when we were all in the laboratory together, all we were told is that it was a terrible toxin. There's one more important fact to consider. According to the witness, Membami-san's verbal attack against the victim began as soon as she entered the hut. In other words, it would have been impossible for her to have slipped the poison into Miss Brett's drink.
Where are you going with this, counsel?
Menimomo-san had made it quite clear that he observed every single thing that happened in the beach hut. If the defendant had somehow found an opportunity, this man would have seen it.
Which means that Miss Brett couldn't have imbibed the poison whilst the defendant was present. In fact, it must have been administered to her before Membami-san entered the hut.
Yes, very articulately put. When I walked into the hut, I immediately started to press Miss Brett about the poison. At which point, Menimomo-san overheard some of the worrying information.
Worrying information? What worrying information?
The information which he subsequently included in his newspaper article, namely, that the poison was being developed in strict secrecy and that it couldn't be readily obtained.
Absolutely. In fact, that's quite an understatement.
The only possible place it could have come from is my lab. And furthermore, anyone afflicted by the poison would exhibit telltale signs in death. The extreme constriction of the pupils. Yes, it's quite stark when you see it. There are other poisons that show similar symptoms, but not among new substances that are undetectable. In other words, it would be clear that the victim's life had been ended by the use of this particular poison, which would reduce the number of suspects to only a handful of people.
Everyone in my laboratory is aware of the unique properties of the toxin we've been developing. None of them would be foolish enough to attempt to use it for some nefarious deed. Membami-san being no exception.
Therefore, we can conclude that whoever administered this unique poison to the victim was a layperson unaware of its telltale properties. In other words, someone like you, writes in Menimomo. Yeah. It was you who stole the poison from the laboratory that day, and it was you who administered it to the unwitting victim. But you quickly realized that it was a terrible mistake, because the poison caused such unusual symptoms and was so traceable. As you listened in from the far side of the beach hut's thin walls, you learned of these facts. But you'd already given the victim the poison at that point. It was too late. So you hatched a plan to disguise your mistake. A plan that involved stabbing the victim in the back through the read screen.
But what good could that possibly do?
Isn't it obvious, Counsel? The plan was to kill Miss Brett before the poison could take effect.
Once in the blood, the poison causes the onset of pupil constriction. But he had hoped to precipitate the victim's death before that happened, hadn't he?
Exactly. Because without any revealing signs of the new secret poison's use, no one would have ever suspected.
This is extraordinary.
Yes, the effects of the poison meant that it would be too easily identified, so the killer had to mask its use, which he attempted to do by plunging a knife into the middle of the victim's back.
Order, order, order. The argument presented is sound. The court is satisfied with that it warrants consideration. Does the prosecution have a counter-argument it wishes to put forward?
Well, there are a number of... yes, I counter completely.
The prosecution's evasive response clearly shows that in much of the same way as he nurtures the remnants of his top knot, he's clinging to lost hope.
Lost hope?
Hold it. Jesus. Ugh, you pathetic, useless, fallen samurai.
Fallen? Who are you calling fallen? My burgeoning growth is...
I don't need a counter-argument. What are you talking about? It should be blatantly obvious. I stole the poison, you say. Gave it to the victim, you say. Stabbed her, you say. Lots of fine theories. But I don't need a counter-argument because you don't have an argument yourself. Where's your evidence? Yes, you make it all sound so plausible, don't you? But without evidence, it means nothing. Whereas I base my news on facts.
Facts? What do you mean? Explain yourself.
I mean what the professor said earlier in this trial. It's all here in my many memos, every word, every slip of the tongue, all noted. That's what the Shoyu News is famous for. It's the power of the printed word. Surely been no easy task to steal a highly secret toxin being developed for the government. Yeah, that's when he said that everybody's checked up and down. How's that then? Blown the story wide open? See, I, write in many memo, a mere reporter from the Shoyu News, couldn't possibly have stolen that poison from the professor's laboratory. That's an easy counter. Oh my god, stop reacting so hard with things that you can easily counter. He must have stolen the poison that day. He stole it and used it to kill. And if that's the case... As you've identified, the poison itself is the definitive evidence we need, because whoever stole it from the laboratory that day is the true culprit here.
What's your point, you annoyingly handsome country bumpkin?
My point is this. There's one way that you, Many Memo-san, could have stolen the poison that day.
I've heard enough verbal conjecture now, thank you. What the court must be shown as evidence. What proof do you have that this witness stole the poison on the day in question?
The proof, Your Excellency, is this fountain pen.
A fountain pen? How can that possibly be relevant?
These magical pens somehow seem to have enough ink to write many thousands of kanji characters. I believe they arrived in our country for the first time some 15 years ago now.
Bah, I swear by a weasel hair calligraphy brush and nothing else. These newfangled pens are merely a fad.
Well, as a forward-thinking man of words, obviously I love my fountain pen. Suck up a soupçon of sumptuous ink, and one's work is awash in the words of a blink of an eye. Oh my god, I can't read his dialogue. That's right. Fountain pens have a small reservoir in the barrel, into which ink is sucked up through the nib of the pen in order to write with later.
What is all this talking of sucking up ink have?
And just as it's possible to suck ink up into the reservoir, it's also possible to eject it through the nib again, of course.
My word, can this really be?
Well, many Memo-san. When you saw the deadly poison before your eyes in the laboratory that day, you used your fountain pen, your very lifeblood, to steal some of it, didn't you? By siphoning the poison up through the nib and into the pen's reservoir.
More absurdity, that never happened!
True, we've heard that there are procedures in place to prevent thefts like this from the laboratory. But would anyone have thought to look inside a fountain pen of all places?
No. I'm a little ashamed to say, for fear of offending our guests, that such a detailed search would not have been conducted. Well, this is quite startling, I must say.
I remind the court that this pen was found in the clutches of the victim when she died. In other words, it was dropped at the scene by many Memo-san. So the crucial question is, when exactly was the pen dropped?
Are you suggesting?
The natural conclusion is that in your haste to act whilst the victim was distracted for a moment, you dropped the pen after you emptied the poison into her glass. There could be a number of alternative explanations. For example, the witness could have been using his pen to write down details of a conversation with the victim. And when shocked by one of her outrageous answers, the pen fell from his quivering hand. No, that can't be. If it was, how do you explain why the pen was devoid of ink? What? As you can see for yourself if you examine the evidence, there would appear to be no ink present in the reservoir. What newspaper reporter goes to interview someone with nothing in his pen? No, the pen was dropped after the poison filled its reservoir had been emptied into the victim's glass.
Witness, what do you have to say in your defense?
So this is how our modern justice system works, is it? So what if the ink in my pen runs dry? So what if my pencil snaps? I can always claw my way back into the game. I have plenty in reserve. Ah! Huh? You claim I sucked the poison up into my pen? That's wild speculation, nothing more. If you thought you could bring down a fine, upstanding citizen with a trick like that, think again. Looks as though it's going to take one final decisive blow to finish this matter.
As I see it, the situation now is very simple. Rests upon whether or not this witness did indeed steal the poison on the day in question. And therefore, it all depends upon whether or not the defense can prove that he did with evidence.
Ha! No such evidence could possibly exist. Many Memo-san, this is how our modern justice system works.
What?
In the courtroom, evidence is everything. Something you would do very well to remember. Because we are all well past the point of speculation at this stage, I assure you.
Very well then. I call upon the defense to present the aforementioned evidence.
This is it then. This will be the final piece in the puzzle. The defense can prove by means of this item that it was a witness's pen that was used to steal the poison. Whoops.
Counsel, what is that bottle?
This bottle contains the unique chemical reagent that can identify the poison in question.
Yes, that poison is an entirely new synthesis of alkaloids developed by my colleagues and I. It would be impossible to detect traces of it by any other method.
Or, from another perspective, simply with this chemical reagent, anybody at all can check for traces of the poison. A reagent? What? One drop of the contents in this bottle, on the tip of your fountain pen, Momo-san, is all it will take to solve this case beyond all reasonable doubt. No, you can't. I won't. Your crimes are bad enough, but at least know when to admit defeat. Your Excellency, the defense requests permission to carry out the test on the fountain pen at once. This isn't my fault. The Empire drove me to do this, trying to hold its head up as a civilized nation, but bowing its head to every win. I took up arms to fight the mighty Pendant, lost on the battlefield, and news and I returned to the Red Heart. So many, Momo! Susato, with me. I'm there. Susato takedown. Did I do it right? That was a Susato takedown, wasn't it? Not quite. That was a Ryutaru takedown. The instant the first drop of the reagent touched the nib of the fountain pen, it was clear to everyone present. I love them. I hope they have a happily ever after together. I love my lesbians and I hope they do. I'm so happy to have some lesbian representation in this game. These games are they were designed, not created, but designed by the character designs, and like some of the scenarios were designed by a yaoi author. So like there's a reason why Edgeworth and Phoenix Wright have such a tense relationship, if you will. That is very, very evident here with the Yuri equivalent of these two women. Love to see it. When I saw it there in the lab, the poison, the devil got a hold of me and I decided to do it on a whim. I excused myself and emptied all the ink down the sink in the bathroom, washing the reservoir out carefully. And then you waited for an opportunity to suck up some of the poison, didn't you? Into your fountain pen. Yes, that's right.
Answer me one thing, Memo-san. Why did you steal it? For what purpose?
Isn't it obvious? To find out what it was made of and expose it in an article. I mean, it was a secret project after all, too juicy for a journal like me to pass up.
Then why did the Englishwoman end up dead?
Sorry, I just clipped the mic there really badly. I'm really sorry about that. I went into that hut intending to quiz her on the situation, that's all. As a reporter, a known killer enjoying full freedom, evading justice by leaving the country. I told her what I thought about it. And she laughed in my face. Oh, what's this? A Far Eastern caveman purporting to practice journalism? Really, you must learn the difference between reporting and listening at doorways, you ignorant plebeian. What did you call me? This country, with its pretensions to a justice system, to a free press, it's really very depressing. You see our superior ways in the West, yet you lack the mental capacity to emulate them. Get out of here, you oaf. Get out and crawl back into the cave that you came from. That's when I remembered about the deadly poison I happened to have in my pen at the time. She races him so hard that she got iced for it, yep.
What a terrible tale.
In my head, I knew I should just get out of there as quickly as possible, but I couldn't. I couldn't let her get away with what she'd done, when she clearly had no remorse at all. I suppose it was my journal spirit, getting all fired up. The depictions of racism in this game are super interesting, yeah, because it's clear that racism very much existed during this time, obviously, but like, yeah, they don't use slurs directly. Not a slur used, yet you can tell just how awful the racial divide is. Yep, exactly that. I'd like to ask you something. Yes? You often talk about justice, but surely as a journalist, you could have used other means to deliver the justice you sought. There is no justice in the press. Sorry? After that trial 9 months ago, I kept digging and digging to find out what had happened in that courtroom. And finally, I discovered the truth. It was a cover-up, that's what it was. A cover-up? What do you mean?
I would remind you of your position, witness. Be careful of what you say. Oh, come on. Doesn't it strike you as strange? We're suddenly not allowed to convict as foreign national? Consular jurisdiction should have never come into it. And yet that puffed up Englishwoman was going to sail away into the sunset a free woman. The only possible explanation is that behind the scenes, some deal had gone down between Britain and Japan. What sort of deal? I've done my research, dug up all the dirt. It was ready to be published. But you know what happened? The editor just tore the article up. It came under pressure from the government, you mean? If our government is going to let criminals walk free, they're gonna crush the free press. Then what choice do I have but to see that justice is done myself? Let's not forget, Minimemo-san, that you committed murder yourself and you tried to lay the blame at the defendant's door. I'm sorry, but you're no better than Giselle Brett. What? The truth is, you have no right to talk about justice at all. Meow. Yeah, my phone just went off. Jim sent me a message like hours ago and it just came through. I suppose. It would appear that we have reached a conclusion in this trial at last. Counsel for the defense, Ryotaro Naruhodo. Oh. Yes. Sorry, Your Excellency. Just musing. It's almost unbelievable. What? I was just musing in a manly way here. It's almost unbelievable that this is your first experience of the Supreme Court. It was an excellent performance. In truth, it's very much reminded me of your cousin's exploits. Oh, Naruhodo-san, Ryunosuke, you mean? The way he handled the trial 9 months ago, and the way you handled this one. Gives me hope that we are genuinely entering a new era of justice in this land. That's very flattering, Your Excellency. Hearing the defense you put forward today made me feel most keenly that the future of our justice system will be forged by you and your contemporaries. Thank you. So, Prosecutor Ouchi, do you have any final thoughts? Oh my god, he has a fucking seppuku set in front of him. Prosecutor Ouchi!
I, Taketsuchi of the Ouchi clan, have been bested by a Kalui youth not once now, but twice. If there was any shred of my former self left, it has withered and died here today.
Gosh, your journey to cultural enlightenment sure took a while, didn't it?
Silence! Rather than living on in shame, I will end it all now with this blade. For that is the true path to Ouchiism.
Ouchiism? One hopes that it is the only way in which he'll be modeling himself after the witness.
Sprig of my top knot, the time is right for farewell. Hope is lost forever. Taketsuchi.
He's just gonna cut the hair off.
Ah!
Love that it's set up like seppuku but for his hair. Yeah, that's exactly what just happened. That is like the seppuku like stand and everything. He just did it for his hair. Formal haiku and everything. Yep. How ridiculous. Now, in regard to the defendant, Rei Membami-san. Yes, Your Excellency. I've reached my final verdict. I hereby find you not guilty. Everyone is praying. Praying for his top knot. Court is adjourned. We did it, guys. We
defended our lesbian girlfriend. 13th August, 2:38 p.m. Supreme Court of Judicature, Defendant's Antechamber 3. It's over. My heart's still pounding in my chest, though. That's all I can do just to stay standing. Lawyers have such great responsibility, such a great burden to bear. Don't they, Naruhodo-san? Susato! Thank you so much. You were so dashing in there. Ray and Father. Honestly, I am so touched by everything you've... Oh no, I think I'm going to cry. It wasn't easy, but together we made it. I was on the verge of tears at the end too. The only reason I'm still here is because of you. Oh no, I can't take all the credit. It took courage to tell the truth in there. You did wonderfully, Ray. So I would have to say that the congratulations belong to you. Susato, don't be so standoffish. Sorry? We're friends, equals, and the trial's over, so no more of this formal super humility nonsense. It's time to celebrate with swagger. Throw caution to the wind. Caution to the... what? I'm the great defense lawyer Ryotaro Naruhodo, and I'm taking you out to a milk bar tomorrow. Or something. Right, I see. I'll think about it, Ray. At any rate, we really knocked out the wind of that horrid man, and it felt so good. Yes, it was satisfying. It really was. Isn't there anybody else we could throw it together?
I hope you're not looking at me, Ray.
Oh my goodness, no, of course not. There it is at last, Ray's lovely smile.
You fought for your friend to the very last. As your father, I'm extremely proud of you. Defense attorney Ryotaro Naruhodo.
Thank you, but I couldn't have done it without your help. Anyway, it's time to bid farewell to Ryotaro, I think. I shall miss him in a way, but it's back to Susato Mikotoba now. So, I'll never see him again then. What a terrible shame. What? What is happening? Soseki-san and Inspector Hosonaga, I do hope you've been keeping well.
Is that really you?
Yes, I had to change my appearance for, well, obvious reasons, I hope. But it's me, Susato Mikotoba.
I don't... So dashing, so divine.
No! Doubly dashing, yes, and devilishly divine, just look at you! Thank you for the raid, Cubic Martin. Hope you're having a good time zone. Hope you had a good stream. Just look at you. I had no idea, Miss Susato-san Esquires, that you were locum student Naruhodo-san's Esquire's cousin. Astonishingly astounding ace attorney! There it is, there's the phrase, ace attorney. Poor Soseki-san, so confused. I still remember the first time I ever met him. He was in a prison cell in London. What an extraordinary conundrum it was that the unwitting student from Japan found himself embroiled in. But after Naruhodo-san's skillful defense at the Old Bailey, Soseki-san was free to return to Japan. And now he seems to have earned himself great fame as an author.
I'm stunned. That's truly impressive disguise. Even I had no idea, and I'm a chief inspector at the police bureau.
Who came up with Mr. Turtle, no less?
I'm not sure you should be admitting to that, Inspector. Amazing. You're a woman of many faces, I see.
Just two, really, and this is once in a lifetime event, I hope. Oh, I'm not a patch on you though, Inspector. I'm not a patch on you though, Inspector.
Well, I am a professional, of course.
I do worry about Inspector Hosonaga sometimes, I really do. 9 months ago, when he appeared here at the Supreme Court to testify, he was undercover disguised as the head waiter of a restaurant. And then on the steamship to Great Britain, of course, disguised as a sailor to keep us safe on the journey. Though, that didn't help you, did it, Kazuma-sama? From my perspective, I had to admit that I have mixed feelings about all this. I mean, now the truth has been lost forever. What do you mean? I'm talking about the murder that the Englishwoman committed at the end of last year. Yes, it was an English doctor she killed, as I understand it. Mr. John H. Wilson, yes, the man I invited to Japan personally. The mystery is, why did she kill him? Now that the culprit herself is dead, we'll probably never know the answer. On the voyage to Great Britain, we had a most unexpected encounter with Mr. Herlock Sholmes, the great detective, I mean. Yes, I remember Sholmes well, of course. My arch nemesis, how lightly you utter his name. Well, according to the stories published about him in The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes, the detective once had a partner who helped him solve crimes, a best friend. And that man was an exceptional doctor of medicine by the name of John H. Wilson. What? Dr. Wilson? I just can't believe that it's a coincidence. I think that the English doctor of medicine killed here in Japan 9 months ago must have been the friend and partner of Mr. Sholmes. And if that's really true, then the poor girl won't ever see her beloved father again.
As you know, I traveled to Great Britain once myself to study. It was around the time you were born.
Yes, grandmother told me about it.
On returning to Japan, I took up my professorship at the Imperial Yume University, but I also serve another role as an advisor to the government on diplomatic affairs.
Yes, I was aware of that as well.
In that case, I'm sure you understand, but there are some confidential matters I cannot divulge to you.
Could you tell me one thing, though? Why did you summon me back to Japan?
Yeah.
It's been 2 months now since I returned. When I left England, it was because an urgent telegram had arrived from Japan. It said that you collapsed with a high fever, and you were growing weaker by the day. What? Where did that news come from? That's what I'd like to know, because after that long sea voyage, I found you in fine health, Father. Was there something in Great Britain that you perceived might inconvenience me in some way, or harm me? That's really the only explanation I could think of.
Dear me, do you reserve your most cutting glares for your father, Susato? I'm sorry, my dear, I simply can't.
Let me go! Many Memo-san. So, one throw was enough for you? I've got one last thing to say before they take me away. Professor!
Me?
I know the truth. I know you had a hand in what went on. In that visiting student's fate.
Visiting student? Giselle Bratt, you mean?
No, not her. The student of law who left for Great Britain 8 months ago. What? Student of law? He must mean Kazuma-sama. What are you talking about? What does any of this have to do with Kazuma-sama? Nobody here in Japan knows anything about it. They don't know that the guy never made it to England, that he died on that steamship, and that he'll never... The judge?
Well, I didn't expect to find him here. What were you officers playing at?
Terribly sorry, Your Excellency.
Oh, the judge is super OP, huh? I was coming to tell you that the rickshaw had arrived, Eugen, and it's a good thing that I came by. Yes, thank you for dealing with him, and I'll be there shortly.
Oh, Your Excellency?
The trial's over. I'm not Your Excellency anymore, merely your father's friend, Seishiro Jikoku. May I say that since I saw you last, you seem to have taken a more dashing appearance, Susato.
Did you know all along? From the start of the trial?
A judge sees everything, Susato. I couldn't let you take the risk. If Seishiro here hadn't known and then he'd recognized you. So I had a word in his ear beforehand, as an old friend. So Seishiro, shall we? Yes, having ruled on that case, we must now have various diplomatic issues to address.
Before you go, Father.
Sorry, my dear, we shall have to return to our earlier conversation at a later date. But well done again, both of you. You did admirably.
Oh, thank you very much.
What did you think of my Seishiro sling, eh? It's been a while since I sent a man flying like that.
Whatever could Father be hiding from me? About Giselle Brett? About Dr. Wilson? And now it seems, according to a reporter, about Kazuma-sama. I'm going to have to bring this up with Father sometime, when nobody else is around. Judicial Assistant Mikotoba-san, Esquire-S, could I have a word? Oh, yes, of course, Usagi-san. What is it? I think perhaps it could be fate that we're meeting again like this now. You see, there's something I need to tell you. Oh? I believe that it may be related to the reason why your father summoned you back from England. This I have to hear. Please, Soseki-san. Please, Soseki-san. Tell me at once. I will! As you know, my time in England was terrible. Cursed, I have no doubt. Such awful things I was embroiled in. Thank goodness the locum student Naruhodo-san Esquire stepped in. After he secured my freedom, I couldn't wait to get on a ship back here to my homeland. Having arrived in Japan, I submitted a report about my experience in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The next thing I knew, I had a visitor. It was your father, Professor Mikotoba. He wanted to ask me all sorts of things about my report. My father? He seemed to be especially taken with a particular part of the report. Anyway, he left eventually, having thoroughly quizzed me. But it was the very next day he sent the telegram to you asking you to return to Japan. What was it then? The particular part my father was interested in? I don't really know exactly. But do you remember that those two terrible cases I was caught up in? Of course, I can never forget. Your father seemed to concern himself mainly with the second case. The second one? You mean the one Mr. Sholmes forbade any of us to talk about in public? Oh, the one Mr. Sholmes forbade any of us to talk about in public? Which is why the only case involving you that any member of the public is aware of is the first. Well, I don't care. I have to listen to what the dastardly detective says. Anyway, the point is, it seems that the case somehow holds a key to all these curious unanswered questions. That horrific, hideous, heinous case. The case of the haunted lodgings. That case somehow caused my father to summon me urgently back to Japan? I thought that whole business was over. It seems I was wrong. Perhaps that was only the start. Perhaps the story is not yet told. And here we are visiting the grave again. So the mystery of the English woman's death is solved. Thank goodness. And having sat in the Supreme Court now, I think I can understand a little better how you must be feeling for your fight with people's freedom, Mr. Naruhodo. Or Naruhodo-san. But actually, I'm writing to you today because of another matter. I met Soseki-san and we talked about the second case he was involved in. Father said nothing to me, but I feel certain of it. That case holds the key to some great unsolved mystery. My notes on the case should still be in the office, tucked away at the back of the shelves on the left. Perhaps you might like to look over them again? Today, for the first time this year, it feels as though summer has arrived. The sky is a brilliant blue. It makes me long to see you again. Yours, Susato. And that's it. That was chapter 1. Susato success awarded. Alright. We shall save. Right here. Override. Perfect. And then we'll just go back. So, join me tomorrow at... Wait, again? Oh, Memoirs of... Okay. That looks like it's gonna be, oh, my bad. I went ahead. Join me tomorrow, where I will do episode 2, or as I call them, case 2. It's gonna be called Memoirs of the Clouded Kokoro, which means it's related to, episode 4 of the last one. Hold on. Select adventure. Go to select adventure. It was episode 4. Adventure of the Clouded Kokoro. Yeah. Interesting. Yes. Join me tomorrow as I will do Memoirs of the Clouded Kokoro. Thank you everybody for coming. Basically as long as chapter 1 of the first game, but felt more concise. Yeah, it felt better. This time around.